Almost
yeah,
always.
yeah, it's your security, and it's also your ability to keep them under lock and key or surveillance, so to speak, and
Oh yeah,
keep them
yeah.
locked
Then
down.
you have to deal with the whole thing. Well, what do I do with these prisoners?
Exactly. Yeah. But there is also the meaning, if it's an orc priest, you can say that he instigates mass murder and do whatever. So in the game world, I will simply see that then a paladin or whatever, it should be his or her duty to chop the head off quickly, so to speak. No questions asked. But the regular
Oh yeah, you
orc,
accept
then it's
the surrender, but still.
exactly, it's swift, meaning no torture, nothing is swift, because then they can simply say that, well, it's part of a sect or a cult, that they can simply say that it's an atrocity against good kind or decent folks, so to speak.
The first couple of times I pulled that on the players, they just didn't know what to do.
No, but it's something that if you've been in the military, this is a discussion you've had over and over again. So it's kind of, the meaning, what do you do with enemy combatants? What kind of level of violence? When are you allowed to shoot someone?
That's what I like about Jack Bauer from 24.
Yeah.
You could surrender to him and he'd shoot you in the head anyway.
Yeah. and so to have that discussion real is very good. And I love to kind of adopt real world problems and scenarios to a fantasy world, because there is other things you have to consider in the fantasy world that you don't have in the real world, and vice versa. But the basic problem is the same, whether it will be in a fantasy world or not.
If you took the world of Greyhawk and took all of the monsters that could potentially do that, you would have a unstable system. There's no way in God's green earth you could support hobgoblins, goblins, orcs, dwarves, elves, humans.
No, and that's
plus
why
all of these little side minor races. Where on earth do you put them?
That's why I always say a fantasy game does not translate well to real life situations in a lot of cases. I mean, it's just a personal.
It depends on how you but it depends on how you do it. Meaning the world is large, and so you can facilitate a whole bunch of meaning. Intelligent actors like dragons and demons and stuff like that. That is the big difference. And somehow to facilitate them, I think, is much more. You have to limit them. But humanoids.
Well, I did a family of blue dragons that inhabited the peaks around this valley where the player characters were used as slaves. And they had to break their slavery and kill off all the humans, but then figure out how to get rid of the guys on the peaks. And the guys on the peaks were the blue dragons, and there were some stone giants. And then I had some winged goblins, which were always fun. Because the winged goblins would swoop down on the people working in the fields. So for the people who owned the slaves, they had to allow the cleric among the humans to have some level of protection, because otherwise nobody gets cured within the slave group, because there isn't any. I had one spell this guy who was an 8th or 9th level person in reality. They threw a spell on him that made him drool and what have you. And 3 people had the key word that they would say that would break him out of it. And all of a sudden he would come back to reality of who he really was.
So real quick, I don't have much. I can't run my virtual Greyhawk ads or. Okay. You're gonna get another stratagem ad real quick here to fill the time.
But what happened?
No, I can't run my. I forgot. I am a little semi-brain dead. But I can't run the virtual Greyhawk Con is coming ad. I can't, so I gotta get
to switch out the.
Yeah, Chuck from Troller Games is giving me some ads finally, some vids. So yes, stratagem giveaway. Sorry, interrupting, Lynn. Stratagem giveaway tomorrow night. Titan dice, everyone's favorite. So yeah, I'll run it again. Yeah. You're correct on that, Len. I'm with Len on this court on the dilemma there.
It's a dilemma, but I think it's an interesting dilemma, and it can be solved. You just need to get the power structure right according to power levels, according to the systems that are there, meaning magic, undeath, and stuff like that. So,
what makes it worse is if you go into the orcs and say, well, the vast majority are evil. However, you have some people who are neutral chaotic, and they're the ones who raise the crops, and they're the ones who make the
we lost Mike.
furs and leather smiths and what have you. And if you make the mistake of letting that piece of your society wither away because your purpose is to kill dwarves and elves and humans, that band does not last very long.
Exactly, and they will
attacking.
Yeah.
Killing off your own intelligent people, because that clan is going to die out.
Oh yeah, and it's like in the real world, the most warlike societies die out because they spend way more energy on creating enemies and strife, and the successful ones are the ones that can cooperate and spend their resources not on military and in conflict, but on trade and exchanging.
Mike, you having issues?
Well, it's another one of those wonderful things for David Edding called the Belgarian, where they deal with supplying their army. So they have these vast numbers of wagons full of food that follow the army. And so you're dealing with you deal with that in Africa Corps.
I know what it is. I've played it a couple of times back in the 80s.
That's all about supply routes.
Yeah.
You can kill off the German supply route, they're really screwed.
Yeah.
And sometimes they make the mistake of saying, "Oh, I'm panzer tanks."
So you guys are
fuel.
You guys are making me feel like Tim's on the show tonight.
But you see, Leonard and me, we agree on important things in this than I think that Tim and me would. But it's interesting. I want to tweak things on the fringes a bit to make it work. But on the other hand, the good thing with a fantasy game, you only need to make it work as much as it's your game mode and the way you game. So if you don't,
Mike must be having technical issues tonight. He's popping on and off. So what did I say? There you go, Tim. So good evening. That was an interesting pre-discussion. Wow.
Yeah.
It's okay. Tim knows. So I'm J.K. Lurkazumba. Mike Bridges I guess he's having some technical issues. He's hopping on and off. I got Anna Meyer and I got the legendary Leonard Lakofka with me. And Len got his wires crossed like Ghostbusters. And it's good Deities deep delve tonight. And Len thought it was Underdark, but that's okay. Yeah. But we get to talk about some of yours. And also we get to talk about some other cool things tonight, particularly your contest, your latest contest you did too. So,
you've got the actual approved 12 tarot cards, right?
Yes.
Or 7 tarot cards.
Yes.
And I sent off his goodies today.
Okay, who was
I
the
sent
winner?
it, Daniel Boggs.
Daniel Boggs was the winner. I'm going to blow
He
this up
won
as much as
before.
I can.
He's won before.
Okay, Daniel Boggs, and I got it stopped here. So let's we'll hit this up first because I know Len. We usually have Len for 25 minutes here. Yeah, yeah. You got that, Catano, but that's okay. So
Folks don't realize when I send out one of these.
Sound good, everyone out there? Just let me know.
When I send out one of these things for people to do, if you send it to me, I will give you feedback. And between the two of us, we'll find common ground, as opposed to you just send it in, then ignore it. And I write you back and say, well, I disagree with this. I disagree with that. I think you made this spell second level, but really it's a fifth level spell. That kind of thing. But somewhere along the line, you have to be cognizant of the fact that I'm trying to work with you. I'm trying to make your entry an entry.
Len approved. That's what you're trying to do.
That's what I'm trying to do.
So why don't we go over what he did for his here as Mike tries to hop back on. The clips are all from Legend of the Seeker Snowbound. It's a TV show. It had 2 seasons in the early 2000s. And real quick story: we get done the game. One of the most unbelievable games ever Saturday night. Okay, with Eric Mona, Luke Gygax, and Anna and the crew, and at the very end of the we're just BSing afterwards off camera. So Eric Mona goes, by the way, what is it with all these hot girls flashing across your screen all night? And I was like, I like the TV show.
Yep.
Because yeah, so it was pretty funny.
That was awesome.
Yeah,
we've been binge watching Schitt's Creek. If you haven't seen that series yet,
well,
there's some very, very funny stuff.
It's always good to have something that you like and something you can relate to. So yeah, they're Legends of the Seeker gifs.
Well, prior to that, I watched Hannibal. Oh my goodness.
Oh geez.
Oh.
So
you have to have a strong stomach for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So
it gives you insights.
Yeah, don't give Tim any other ideas. Don't give Tim any other crazy ideas. John, thank you for the raid. Really appreciate it.
Oh, he wasn't crazy. He was a cannibal. What can I tell you?
Oh. Yeah, we don't need Tim doing anything else crazy in his game. Yes, John, I wouldn't be careful what you wish for because you may have Tim coming to a town near you soon sometime. So just remember that. So all right, so the tarot deck. We'll get to that first. So go over what happened, Len, and what he did and what you like about it, and while we have you here still.
Well, basically, I gave him 7 sort of rules. And the most important rule was for the vast majority of cards, you turn the card over and whatever's going to happen happens right then and there. So it's instantaneous. What you cannot do is keep the card. That won't work. Because even if the deck, you take the card and you go off to the ethereal plane or to another plane of existence, when the deck is done and everybody's picked, it's going to go after that card and bring it back.
Oh.
Even if you burn the damn card up, it's going to come back. So a deck of many things is an artifact. There's no other simple way of putting it. It absolutely is an artifact. So you have to give it that weight in the sense of when you create the various effects. And you also can take the cards, like the Magician, for example, and say, well, if it's a magic user who picks it, you get a bonus. Or the Hierophant, who I usually treat the Hierophant as probably being a druid.
Right.
If you happen to be a druid, you get a bonus for that class. So that you specify by class, but you don't give a damn about aligning. You don't care if it's good or evil. You just don't care. The deck doesn't care about that. But it does care about the class of the person who picked the card.
Interesting.
So That's why I set a set of 7 rules that I'm using in the background to judge the various cards. And I was hoping that players would go and look at the tarot decks and say, oh, gee, this card is that, and this card is this, and this card is that. And it follows universally across a number of decks. And that would give you a big leg up on, well, in a D&D world, what does that convert to?
And that's what we have up as 2 pages of that.
Yeah.
And how many? So this was another one where we didn't get as many submissions as we would have liked, right?
2.
2, because you know, we're gonna have to keep it basic. Like write 1 sentence about or something. I mean, because you know, Len likes intricacies, and I got an idea for you, Len. I think you should have the next one. Have someone make up the perfect adventuring party or something like that. Like you pick a level; they're all level 3 character. Make 5 characters.
Yeah, that's certainly doable.
Yeah, see, look at that. So maybe we'll talk about that next one. But let's just discuss what you have here, because I want to get into your Sully's good deities too, while we still have you, and to talk about them in our deities discussion. I told Mike that Mike's got having internet connection issues. I told him reboot his router and then try and come back on. That may clear it up. So he's having some problems here. Go. You got the Fool, the Magician, the Hierophant. Fool, Magician, Hierophant, Chariot, Hermit, Hanged Man, and the World are the cards you used.
Yes.
So, thanks again, John, for that. Appreciate that gift sub there.
Well, I had to talk him into the World being a very, very powerful card in the tarot.
Right.
So you should really get a result that is outstanding. And you get a result that might be permanent.
Oh, might be.
Might be permanent. You have
Okay.
to roll the dice. And what we agreed on was you would get a temporary increase for 72 hours. He did 24 hours. I boosted everything to 72.
I see that.
Because if you don't have a reasonable period of time, like you're somewhere and you decided to take the deck and work with it, well, is something interesting going to happen in the next 24 hours? Not necessarily, but at least if you have 72 hours, you have a chance. So he suggested for the World, and we collaborated on, temporarily, your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma would go up to 19, or your strength, constitution, and dexterity would go up to 19. And you had a chance that one of those 3, whether it be in the mind series or the physical series, could remain as a permanent change to 19. And that's all explained within the text, briefly explained within the text of the World, to make it the powerful card it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's cool. I know you have the effects at 72 hours. Like, for example, if they draw the Fool, every time the character attempts to speak for the next 72 hours, every word they utter comes out backwards. That's pretty neat. All right, here comes.
It comes out backwards, but now he originally wrote that, well, now your spell will have a reverse effect. Said,
oh, my gosh.
It's babble.
Yeah.
You literally are having this guy speak stuff backwards. If he writes it down, it will be obvious to the people looking at what he's written down pretty quickly. Oh, that's this word backwards. That's this word backwards. So they can decipher what he has in fact said by seeing this series of 7 words.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't say if it's 7 words long that you take word 1 and throw it to 7 and 7 and throw it to 1. I didn't stick you with that much of a pain.
Yeah.
But if you wrote these things down, you could look at it and say, oh, I know what that means, because I can simply see it. It's him saying things backwards. It's a Babel effect. It's like you discover the Tower of Babel and suddenly all these people can't talk to one another anymore.
It is awesome, and there's some really like magician anti-magic shell 72 hours. That's unbelievably powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Hierophant crystal gaze. You can see a possible future event within the next 72 hours. Chariot. Let me flip this. Chariot.
See, the issue with all of this stuff is something going to happen in that 72-hour period?
Right.
And that's unrelated to the deck.
Well, that's true.
You found the deck, it's a treasure. You've worked the deck, and now can you possibly do something that's going to be benefited by the fact that the duration is zipped up from 24 hours to 72? At least you have a chance. You have 3 days, in some cases, to fool around with.
I can't let Alan or Tim use these. I just can't. Sorry, guys. There's Tim again. So the Chariot, here and gone. The card casts a haste spell upon the character, which lasts 72 hours with no system shock and no aging.
Right. So what would be the point of hasting somebody and he makes a system shock and dies?
Right.
That would be pretty anticlimactic.
Sure. So
that's why I said there's no system shock, and you can maintain this higher level of speed for the full 72 hours.
Yeah.
I'll make use of it.
Yeah.
If you possibly can. Like if there's some temple or enclave that you're attacking.
Yeah.
Now you've got Joe over here who, instead of doing 2 blows around, is now doing 4 blows around. Well, now's the time to throw him in, because he can do a lot more damage.
So if you had a cleric or druid, you'd want the hermit card, because you get if you're a cleric or druid and you draw it, you get +2 to your wisdom permanent, but anything else is -1 to wisdom permanent. Any other class. It's -1 to wisdom permanent. And then Beggar's Dream. All humans at character speak. All humans that the character speaks to the next 72 hours will be compelled to give the character a gift, usually a handful of coins. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of mine, but you also can have a +1 magic in there, and it specifies that the person who gifts you the +1 shield or the +1 suit of leather armor or the +1 sword will look at it after the fact and go, why did I do that? But he won't try to get it back from you. So some of the fun ones which you can do with a tarot deck, or a deck of many things, is it says you get a really good weapon, like +2, and
useful
then
item.
+4 or something or other, and it shows up with the owner. Now that gives you a nice little dilemma, because the owner is still in possession of it physically.
Right.
But because the deck summoned it, but it brought the person with it. Now that doesn't always happen. But you can do that. It's the DM's right to not screw the player, but test his skills of, how do I talk my way the hell out of this? When all else fails, you actually role play.
So the last one, the World. With this card, the character gains a score of 19 and all their ability scores for the next, 72 hours. So it makes you Superman or Superwoman or whatever.
Right.
The person gets to make one of the 19s permanent if he rolls a 51 to 100 on the die percentile.
Right.
So the World is almost the most powerful card in the deck. So there you go. So amazing. So here's the thing. I have this cut into 2, as you can see. And I have it cut into 2 JPEGs. Just whisper me, or if you have Len's email, Len will send it to you. I'll send it to you. just like we always do. And then I guess next contest Len will be working on is maybe we'll do an adventuring party makeup, and Len will go over the parameters for that.
I have to think about that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So
because I could impose my method, but then there's no point.
well,
In
yeah.
other words, I would want the player to say, here's how I roll up my characters for the individual player. And I'll tell you what mine is. I do 7 die 6. So now you can take one of the 7 and throw it away. You're recording the other 6 in order. Strength, intelligence, wisdom, dexterity, constitution, charisma, addition 1. And if you don't have 2 15s or 1 16 in those 2 characters, you're allowed to run a third one. But you're going to play one of the 3. So you could end up with a flub anyway, no matter who.
Yeah.
But do the best you can. Treasure your 14s, because if you're making a demi-human, you might be able to juice him up by 1 and actually get an effect.
What is the prize that the question in it from the audience? What is Dan getting for the prize for?
What did I give him?
Yeah.
I gave him a bunch of campaign coins.
Oh, cool.
Just came in the mail from the Kickstarter.
Nice.
And I gave him a bunch of a set of dice.
Beautiful. Good for him. Leonard approved, of course. So, Len, I don't think we got you for 8 more minutes. So, I really
We should get to the deities then.
Yes. That was awesome. So, all right, good deities tonight. We're going to be all over the place. If Mike's not here, boy, well, we're going to really challenge ourselves.
We have to work hard on it.
Well, we gotta convince Mr. Julian to come on afterwards.
Yep.
All right, so let me get to your first one here. We're going to do the Soul first. Bahamut is revered as a deity in Len's campaign. Bahamut, Tiamat. So, Len, give me your thought process on that.
Well, Bahamut and Tiamat, as far as I'm concerned, can attach themselves to more than one pantheon.
Okay.
They are worshipped universally, not necessarily just the Sul. The Sul recognized both of them as being lesser deities within their system. But you certainly can have an Iridian who might also worship Bohemian.
Right.
Bohemian. That's not right. Bahamut, for example.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So those two go along for the ride, and they could be attached themselves to more than one pantheon. Now the other
Jascar.
17 gods.
Yeah, there's a couple good ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there are a few good ones. Jascar is the good lawful guy.
Yes, and he is.
He gave birth to Cord, if I recall right, and of course, Cord's a loose cannon. He's also a womanizer.
Well,
so
of course.
He has children all over creation with multiple races, I might add.
Well,
but they can't claim him as being their father unless there's certain parameters that are achieved. And if he achieves those, when the child comes of age, Cord himself or an emissary of Cord might show up to give you something really nice, like a +3 weapon, just for the fact of, well, you're my son or you're my daughter.
I like all these. I rarely use the good soul deities. Lydia is pretty amazing, actually. So
yeah, she's not one of the most common worshipped gods, but she has some abilities. Certainly, she's got bards who will worship her. She's got people who perform. Period.
Yeah.
Music of any kind, singing, what have you. She's got a number of things going for her, but she's not a mainstream god. She's the intelligentsia are the ones who are going to be worshiping her. Sages would also likely worship her.
very good, a very good deity. Remember, these are all from the articles from Leonard going back into October of '84, September '84. So you gotta have to dig them up again, back from the old Dragon magazines. But like I said, I got my deities reference right here. Falcon. I just made up a specialty piece of Falcon recently. Alan's playing one. Remember, we went through this as they can only use daggers and melee. Len, according to the article, they can use all bows, but only daggers. So Falcon is kind of good. So of the air, and what do you think about that deity you made up as far as good goes?
Well, I have a number of player characters who have selected him as their deity.
Okay.
And speaking of L6, if that were ever to happen, Falconville, which is on the northern peninsula of the Lendor Island, you have an 11th level high priest up there. And he's Falcon. And what I probably would do is take those key characters from Falconville and I would take them and
yeah,
fill them out.
God of the open air.
I did do a couple of towns along the other edge of the peninsula, and I drew maps for those and populated. So they would have also been L6 material.
So I recall, hey, that's good to hear. It's really good to hear about L6 again. And hopefully we'll get to that down the road, everyone. We'll throw that tidbit out at some point. Falcon, I noticed something about Harby. There was no Falcon, and Harby's got a lot of soul deities in it. And I was like, there's no Temple of Falcon here at all. So I put one in my Harby map. And then Falcon's becoming a little more popular in our game, too, after 40 years. And it says in here, Falcon is second only to Cord in fighting ability among the deities of the Soul Pantheon. Pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's either, let's see, Cord is Falcon's father or the other way around.
Falcon is Cord's father.
Falcon is Cord's father, yeah. But he's the god of strength and war. So he's worshipped by a crap load of people, especially in the barbarian state. He and Lurd are the two big deities in all the barbarian states, and he has a tremendous following among fighters and brawlers and drinkers and womanizers. I mean, who could have it any better? Cord is not evil, but boy, now and then he makes a decision that isn't the best. And when Cord goes berserk, only Lendor is the one who can finally go, stop. He's the only one. Otherwise, Cord goes berserk and he's people on his own side.
A true chaotic neutral.
Yeah.
So I think I got them all, right? Did I miss any of yours? I'm thinking here. Goodwise. Phaeton, right?
Yeah. God of beauty and nature.
Yeah, let me get to him. It's alphabetical. I got smart tonight, made him alphabetical, Anna.
Okay, good.
Yep. There's Phaeton. Yep. Beauty and nature. Mm-hmm. Awesome. A deity that I don't think we've ever had any character in my campaign ever worship, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen. I'm trying to get my guys to expand out to some Meridian deities, which we'll discuss, and some Soul and some Flans. So
Titan is a 14th level druid and 14th level ranger. So he's chaotic good with neutral tendencies, but he is worshipped by clergy and by druids. And therefore, among druids, he's one of the more common gods in the soul deities that
excellent.
Might be available for people to choose. I like to let people we negotiate alignments and then we negotiate gods.
Makes sense.
And it depends on who is available, because that, to me, that the key. You have this hometown, like take Restonwood right now. Well, if you don't have a cleric of Cord, how can you advance as a cleric of Cord when you have no mentor available to you?
Right.
So you have to have, that will limit what you can do at the get-go. But I take it into account when we're assigning deities, and
Makes sense, especially on Lender Isle.
well, in the whole point of a pantheon is if you're ready to get on a ship and go somewhere, you pray to one of the gods that involve ship travel or being safe while you're on the water. So you acknowledge these other deities. Again, a great example of in the David Eddings book, The Belgariad, he goes through this whole pantheon of, I think it's, I'm going to say 7 gods, I could be wrong, 7 or 9. And the one of the gods creates a very, very, very powerful item called the Orb of Aldur, A-L-D-U-R. And this evil god covets it, steals it. But when he uses it to create a rift in the earth, the orb comes back and burns half of his face off permanently.
Oh.
Since he's a god, he can't do anything about it. So he's living in the misery of this thing there being constant. It's fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you probably got to depart, so it's
Yes,
yeah.
I do.
So Len, I'll see you.
If you have one specific question, I can answer. Maybe.
Does not appear so, but I will say this, Len. Sunday night we're doing another for Autumn Revel for Luke's Con. We're doing the World of Greyhawk and its vibrant virtual community. So we'll have you on, and I want to get your input Sunday night on doing this. Doing the streaming and being on with 100 plus so people every twice a week, asking you questions and talking about it, and what it's so different from the early days. I think that'll be an interesting discussion.
What I always missed out on was the fact that Gary would run his game whenever he ran it. I'm going to say I had heard at one point it was on Wednesday night, but that I could do. But you had all of those people who were immersed in his world and caused that world to be created. So you may have started in the pre-city of Greyhawk, but you start expanding around near Dev and all of the locations around the near Dev. That's how, as I understand it, how he started his campaign, was radiating out from there.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
He did I mean, if Gary Gygax didn't do anything other than create the world of Greyhawk, he would be a monumental designer. But he did that and the world.
Yeah, he did the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's unbelievable.
I have to say,
if
there's a specific question, I need it now.
I don't think so. I think we're good. And would you think Earth would be there?
Well, if you're not good, then you either.
Thanks for all the discussion tonight. We had a lot of pre-discussion too, Len, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
See you Sunday.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right. So it's just Anna and me right now.
Yeah.
We got a big Anna picture because Mike is
okay.
having internet problems, all sorts of. It must be in that southern Illinois area. There must be some kind of issues going on. So
yeah, you never know. Yeah.
Deities. If you want references for your deities, here's everything I need. Is some of it's falling apart is right here. Do the following. All right. If you can afford it or get the PDF. Get the Free City, get the From the Ashes box set because it's got a lot of spheres of all the Greyhawk deities, and as you can see, mine's falling apart. It's a good starting point. All right,
get that additional information from the first box set that didn't have any of it.
Get Greyhawk Adventures.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Get this Give us away every 1,000 followers. Get a Best of the Dragon Volume 3. Get it for all the demi-human deities. You have them in one place. You don't have to go through. You have a nice book, and they're all in here. All of them except for the main ones in the deities and demigods book. You probably need that. You probably need that too for like Corellin and stuff. And then lastly, start photocopying or start printing out some PDFs of deities, the articles that are in the Dragon magazine. So like you got the original World of Greyhawk ones, right? That from Gary Gygax, right? You print them all out, put them in. You have, and then you can put the saints in here and the quasi deity articles in here. Here's a quasi deity article. Get that. All right, there. Look, there's Heward right on the cover, right? Okay, and you got and then you got. I always got to show this picture just to show you. Look, he's got a gun in his hand. All right, there you go. There's Merlin, Clint Eastwood. Right, it's exact. So you have that from that article. All right, you get that. You get this one from Scott Benny, and you'll know once you read this. You'll know why Gary loves Death Knight so much, because the original Death Knight, St. Kargath, is in this article, setting saintly standards. All right, you get that one, and then you get all of Leonard's articles on the Soul Pantheon, right? Gods of the Soul Pantheon. You get all those, and just put them in a book, and then you have a great reference. And that is my color-coded downstairs books for deities, right? I got the Iridians in here too now, so I just put them in. So there you go.
I think you can add one book to it, and that's a Living Greyhawk.
Oh, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm just saying for
that one,
base, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because that one has a bunch of updated information too, and added stuff that you can include if you want to or not. Just like any Living Greyhawk content, it's kind of optional whether you want to use it or not. But
Rich Longagitel says I can't even pronounce it.
Yeah.
Only it shows up in LGG, so there you go. Yeah, and that's a good one too. Who made that deity up?
I don't know.
Who's going to take credit for that one? Is it Gary, Eric?
I don't know, but we have to ask Gary that question.
Yes. Fred Whining, according to Seeker. Beautiful.
Okay, yep.
Thank you for that. I did not know that. You just educated me on something.
Yep.
All right. So this is how you need to make the list available somewhere. No, I don't, Tim. I don't, man. Because if I make a list for that, I gotta make a list for everything, man. It's like I'm sorry, Casey's not on now, but he wants me to show you how characters are made up in my game. No, I can't make if I do that from scratch, I'll drive myself insane making up those kind of lists, because it's just stuff is flexible. So but I will always assist anyone if they need help and they can't find something. That's but in bursts. So I understand that completely. All right, so deities, good deities. We did evil 2 weeks ago, or no, that was 2 weeks ago, because we had Living Greyhawk in between. So there's so many. And I think we're just gonna spitball it and just pick one and go, and then you guys have suggestions. I'm gonna stick to the ones I know. I stick to the ones you know. And then if Gary comes on, there's going to be a couple. I added some that I don't know too much about. You do have, see, that's good. Rich has a Word doc for him in Cannon Fire as well. Here, I'm going to shout this out. All right, here's my quick announcements. I promised these right after Len went off.
Yep.
All right, so Gary has set Grey Talk to a new night and time every Friday night, 9 p.m. on the Cannon Fire Discord. So that's a great thing. So Grey Talk is Friday nights. It doesn't interfere with anyone's streams now, which is great. Friday nights, 9 p.m. EDT. So that is a regular thing. He pinned that up, I believe, last night or today. Yeah, assert that's tomorrow too. I'll be giving away some Titan dice tomorrow. Yeah, we'll be hitting up some of these big Titan dice things tomorrow, man. So that's number one. Number two, I was hoping John would stick around, but John had to run. John and I are doing a special seminar, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central for Autumn Revel. Okay, and that is called, are you ready? Because I'm not going to get in any fights with anyone in this one, huh? It's called Transitioning Between D&D Editions. Yes, that's. They wanted me on, so oh my gosh.
That is good. You never transitioned.
Oh,
You're the least expert on this because you never transitioned. You made your own version.
yes, exactly. Not sure it's every Friday, Rich. You're correct, but it's this Friday at least, right?
Okay.
So,
So what time was it again? Repeat that.
Great Talk's 9 p.m. and
9 p.m.
this
Okay.
this is 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday afternoon before our seminar. Okay, so
Yeah.
it's John from Blue Box, John Birchfield, and I were invited. It's moderated by Luke himself. Luke Gygax is moderating it, so it'll be an interesting one. I don't have anything to throw up as a yeah. Talk about transitioning from 1E to 2E, but I didn't transition from 1E to 2E. I kind of back transitioned from 2E to 1E. All my classes are 1E classes. I made Necromancer 1E. I made Illusionist is still 1E. The Specialty Priests are all 1E versions of the 2E, you know. So
you have a unique, good perspective on it.
yeah,
So,
I believe it's Gary Khan channel. Once I have that up, I'll throw that up on all the announcements, Asher. But I believe it's Gary Khan's main channel. All right. So
I want to
yeah.
watch that.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully, I don't sound too much like an a-hole during that discussion with everyone else, because I guarantee you're going to hear this from me one time. If there's some other smarties at 5e, I'm going to go, "How many times have you played an old school game?" And I bet you they'll say, "None."
Yeah.
You know, but that's going to happen. And then, please, Sunday night, this is going to be huge. Autumn Revel, World of Greyhawk, and the vibrant virtual community. William Henry Dvorak's added too. Leonard, Anna, John from Blue Box, Carlos Lysing, probably for a bit. David Leonard, blogger, Tommy John Kelly, blogger, William Henry Dvorak added. So there you go. That's going to be a great discussion on for during the normal Gabbin, and it'll count as a Gabbin. So all right, so let's keep on rolling with this. I wanted to get that out there. You did what EGG wanted DMs to do, make the system. That's it, man. Dorgrim, you're absolutely correct. Let me scroll back up here. Jim's question: the Scarlet Brotherhood. Book explains how they worship the Soul Pantheon with Cyril, Primus, Ouija being the most prominent state gods. The Pantheon's honors, well, however, include Lurg, Lydia, and other good gods. I'd like to hear what you have to say on how work in changing official good gods and otherwise evil regime. I don't. Yeah. So first of all, Lurg's not a good god. Lurg's cac neutral. All right. So right, Lydia is, and Phaeton is, and Jascar is really the three main ones that are good. And I guess, like, for example, Lydia is like bards, or if they have, I don't, you know, it doesn't need to make 100% sense when they put that in the Scarlet Brotherhood set. You know, it's just, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that with the good deities?
You have good
revered,
deities in evil societies.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is a very, it's a great question. And to me, I take it as, you can be you can go two ways. Look at the old Grey Kingdom, where you had opposing views, like you had Heronius and Hexter, so to speak. You can have a society that is kind of neutral, that allow really freedom of religion in a way. And so you can have two sides of one thing, but as soon as you start having an oppressive society, which I simply assume that the Scarlet Brotherhood is, then it depends on how oppressive they are. Because if they allow some sort of art, and they more oppressive than they are culturally attuned, they will, I think, simply ban all the good ones, so to speak, period, and only have the state authorized religion, period. But if they are more culturally attuned, and they're more soul than evil, then I'm sure they will allow priests to operate within their spheres and of interest, meaning the priest of that deals with art and expression and stuff. As long as they only do art and expression that is of the regime of the Scarlet Brotherhood approved, they could work. That's one way of doing it. But you can also say that they exist within society, but they are subverted. They are underground, meaning that's part of the hidden underground scene. Meaning there are priests of this good deity in the Scarlet Brotherhood, but they're working undercover, underground, and they're kind of known, or they're less known, they're pursued, and they might work underground but be kind of unofficially approved, so to speak. I mean, there are many different ways you can put this on, and look at real world societies and countries and look at resistance movement, and you can look at things from the Falun Gong movement in China to whatever, and you can kind of look at religion, how it's treated in different countries in the world, and then make up your mind and say that that's the way I'm going to deal with it. That's feels right for my campaign to deal with that level of that's how it works, so to speak. And remember, if in your campaign it needs to make sense for you and your players, and depending on how you run the game, that you know your game group the best, so to speak. So, and then you add a little bit more detail than what your players demand and what you think your players would understand and be interested in, and that gives them a rich experience, so to speak.
So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
Falcon's good too. Falcon's a good one
Yeah.
too. So, and just man, sometimes stuff just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and also
You know,
you have Poultice of the Blinding Light is a perfect example. It used to be a good god back in the Great Kingdom days, and then you have the Pale, where they worship only the lawful aspect of it, and they're turned into what almost can be described as an evil society, or close to it, and they kind of very. So almost any doctrine can be twisted and thwarted, and then it's up to you to decide whether the god accepts that change or not. Is the god more interested in power than ethical principles? Then the god would simply say, yes, that's awesome, I get worshippers that way, and you spread it. But some gods might be more interested in promoting the moral and ethics in the world, rather than gaining as many followers as possible. So that's up for you to decide too, if how you want to play that, so to speak.
good question.
Yeah, great
So,
question.
Josh, Zarathon's taunting me already in chat, but that's okay. No problem. Only I know the difference between a Gabbin and a Legends and Lore. That's not true.
Well, we kind of sometimes we overlap.
Sometimes we overlap. Yeah.
Stuff, so yeah.
I talk a lot less about my campaign on Legends and Lores.
Yeah, but this I think was a perfect Legends and Lore question, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely.
Perfect
one. All right, so I'll throw a deity out, and then you guys can throw deities out too.
Mm-hmm.
I did not bring the Specialty Priest book up for one reason, by the way. I remember how on Sunday night I talked to Dennis about, I'm trying to set a date for Dennis and I to do a whole, just our Specialty Priest discussion on a Gabbin, because that's definitely a Gabbin topic. See, Josh, there are topics that are different, because it's custom gameplay. So
hopefully talking about your special priest for 2 hours is perfect for Gabbin.
Yeah.
But you need to bring them up here too, because
a little bit
as an alternative, one way of doing it, so to speak. Yep.
Paylor
is
a fantastic deity.
Yeah.
All right. There's no pictures of Paylor anywhere. There's not a single picture. There's just a symbol.
Yeah, but I kind of like that, because I see him as the head of the good pantheon in a way, as the overall.
More than Rao?
In a way, I see that's an interesting, because I want to come to there's three good gods I want to, and that's Paylor, Rao, and Cuthbert, because and Hieronymus is another one, and I want them to, because I think they fill different aspects and niches in the stable of good common gods, so to speak. And I see Paylor as the kind of the head of the good God, so to speak. He's the distance and the sun and holding up the basic ethics and all that, so to speak, rather than being something that people go around worship every day. But it's hard, because we come from a society that is very monotheistic and also fairly secular. I see the fantasy world where gods have more direct power and stuff than we perceive in the real world. That means that most people are probably way more religious, and religion is a fabric of society, meaning much more practical. You have Silchus, for instance. He runs, if you're a business person and you have a merchant guild, that is actually run by the priests of Silchus. That's what they do. The priest and the church is not something separate, running a separate part of society. They run their part of what they do, so to speak.
So when Palor is like, as Anna says, is one of like a main deity. Palor has two things going for him, and that is great healers
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
great bane against true undead.
Yep.
Those are the two things with Palor. I think it's either Rao or Palor has the highest level published source character priest I've seen in a campaign.
Yep.
And he's in the Free City Greyhawk. It may be it's one of the two, either Rao or Palor, like 18th level. I think it's the highest I've ever seen a straight
Yep.
priest or cleric of.
But that might be because they have a lot of state backing. So
Yeah,
meaning
true.
every country want to have a good aligned country wants to have a few really high level priests or Palor and stuff, because they are part of religious advisors and give them power and prestige and stuff. So that's why that's the way I see it. That it's a state backed religion way more than the common man, so to speak.
Yeah. When we transitioned out of deities and demigods only, and demi-human deities only, and finally got to the Greyhawk deities, I don't know, finally, I mean like the mid-'80s, when the articles came out, maybe a year or two after that, Palor was a huge one. There's others that we knew. St. Cuthbert you always knew about from all the adventuring in Temple of Elemental Evil and all that, and Alana you knew about, but you didn't know. Palor was just one of those you didn't know really that much about until we really delved into them, and it's a fantastic deity. So a lot of people in chat are saying they have characters in their campaigns that are Palor worshippers too.
It's the kind of the standard deep going good aligned god that every campaign needs. It's a kind of a one of the cornerstones of the religion of the religious life in your campaign is that good deity you can trust and is there and fills that function. And I think that probably a lot of people in Greyhawk that in those countries that are good enough that you're allowed to worship it, they probably do it on a more continuous basis. One of the deities that you kind of have your daily prayer to Palor every time the sun comes up. So you can kind of say that was a new blessed day, and I hope Palor is with us today too, or something like that. And it's part of and rulers of various kinds probably do it even more so, as they want to have Palor's favor in order to maintain their countries and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, definitely an interesting deity, and one that there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, how lawful, like both St. Cuthbert and Foltest can be lawful good or lawful neutral.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about Palor.
Exactly.
True neutral good.
Yep. And also, I have him as the one that runs the good pantheon, so to speak, as the sort of major god that is above the rest of them. Just like on the evil side in hell, you have Asmodeus as the most powerful one running the 9 hells. I see Palor as the opposite, so to speak, on the good side that runs the heavens, so to speak, the highest echelons of goodness up there. That's Palor is the mightiest ones of them up there, and that means that I see him as the god probably more interested to run his planner affairs and his multiverse affairs than running around thinking of what individuals and small little kings and barons and stuff doing it on Worth, so to speak, in the world of Greyhawk. He's kind of distant that way, but he's powerful, enormously powerful. But he has such a large domain to rule over that his presence is more esoteric and distant than many other gods.
I don't know. Why don't you pick one?
Yeah, I want to pick an opposite. I want to pick a pair of gods that I think are interesting in their difference, and that's Rao and Cuthbert.
Okay.
And I see Rao as the god of philosophers, rulers, kings, and other people of power, so to speak. It's the god for them to think about, how do I run my country? What are the principles of the world? And how, if I want to rule fairly and so on and so forth, that's the Rao, the god of diplomacy and trying to make friends and make agreements and stuff like that. So it's the god for kings and barons and earls and seers and court wizards and a whole bunch of other people that are up there. It's the god for them. And then I see Cuthbert as the complete opposite, a good god for the common man, for man and woman who simply go about their business, the ones who tend to the flock, the local shepherd that has the temple in the little village or the little town and is the one helping the people when they get in trouble. He can be the one with the cudgel to whack that person who's not in line, and he's the one to heal them up and the one to that they can go and confess to and say, I have this problem, can you help me, how do I sort this out? And you have conflict between two families. It's not the priest of Rao or the priest of Pelor that will come and sort that out, but the Cuthbert priest will be the one that will be around the corner and can actually do it. And it's the down to and also it's the rival between the druids used to do that, and then in the modern new faith, when you don't have the old faith, then Cuthbert is the newcomer that do the same thing that the village druid used to do in the Flan culture back in the day. That's how I see it. And Rao is the very opposite, so to speak. They're both good, but they work socially in the opposite ends of society.
I cannot recall, and I know there's got to be one or two, but not clerics or priests. I can't recall a worshiper of Rao in my game. Now, I know there's probably a couple
Oh yeah, you have
that I just don't even know about.
Most important is the ruler of Viluna, the archbishop. Hang on a second. I should, of course, hang on a second. I have it. The one that he was wielding the Crook of Ra. There you have it. Hang on a second.
Right.
Yeah. And I need to come up.
Well, Warnish Starcoat, wasn't he using it?
Hang on a second here. I'm going to get it here. People and creatures.
Yeah.
Hasten.
Okay.
Canon of Viluna. Hasten.
Okay.
Yep. He's the I think the only one I know about that is he's the head of Viluna. So the Viluna is archclerisy run by the Rao priesthood, so to speak. So they are the government structure, I take it, and not so much the folksy religion. And they also have, so I bet that they have a bunch of local Cuthbert churches and stuff like that. But the government structure is run by the Canon Hasten and his priesthood.
So we don't, according to Stuart, you're absolutely correct. We don't adventure in Viluna. We do more. We do in Furiandi. Hence why I don't have any Rao priests.
Exactly, but the Furiunians are more warlike, a little bit more and more practical, so to speak. The Vilunians with Rao are much more up there, so to speak. They are the ones that are making deals, setting standards, and probably what my guess is that the Vilunians might be very much like they're selling a service of court, advising courts on a whole bunch of issues and stuff like that. So the Rao priesthood is the if you need help in diplomacy, peace negotiations, all sorts of stuff like that, then the priesthood of Rao could be, for a little money, can definitely be there helping you with all these issues. So the opposite, just like the common man will go to his druid or his Cuthbert priest to get a heal or get a whatever when they've been out adventuring and broken a bone or get a curse on them or something. But if a country has a problem, then you would not reach out to the Cuthbert faith, but you might reach out to Canon Hasten in Viluna and ask for his help in political matters and diplomacy and stuff. So religion has both a game mechanics adventuring side, but also a society cultural side to it, that different gods and different religions and clerics fills.
I put the call out to Gary, so we'll see.
Yep.
We'll see. So Fultus, let's just cover that now, because
that's the interesting. I see him as he's very much. I see him as an alternative to Pelor.
Yeah, because in here, and I just want to say this: Fultus of the Blinding Light, and it says right here: light, resolution, law, order, inflexibility, sun, and moon.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I saw him as the Iridian kind of deviated into, because they wanted something that was more tangible. So they kind of invented a version of Pelor that was more down to earth, a bit closer to home, so to speak, and also that emphasized law and order and stuff more than Palor.
Right. It's Carl Sargent went way, and I utilize it to my advantage with like the Fighters of the Light and all these other lawful neutral zealots that you've seen in my adventures and all the trouble they cause in the Shield Lands now. But I like that. But I mean, he originally was a lawful good deity with some lawful neutral tendencies.
Yeah.
So
but I love when they do cultural evolution, when the world kind of moves forward and you do things like that. So when the Pales have turned something that was originally good into something that is as close to evil you can get without being pure evil. It's the lawful brought to it. It's like the Catholic Church during the Inquisition or something, or even a caricature of it, that they're going nuts in upholding their own dogma and principles above everything else. So they turn away from goodness, and I think that it's probably one of the most interesting clergy to use as a kind of an enemy that is difficult. It's you can have like Kafka-like situation where the characters have to bribe and deal their way out of bureaucracy, and they can use force only to some extent, because then will be like a nest of wasps or something that you get up. It can be very interesting foe to deal with, so to speak. A bunch of the Palites and stuff, and also in the Gord books, that I think they're part of you get a little bit of that problematic up there. So
So I have Fultians that are both lawful good worshipping and lawful neutral worshipping. A lot of NPCs are lawful neutral because I like to expose it, but there's no reason why this deity cannot be viewed in the lawful good aspect. So
exactly.
Okay, there you go. Awesome, man. So see, so here's the thing. People's Twitch names rarely are the same as people's Discord names, unfortunately. Like good people, like we got Phantom and Extort and Puppet, Jason, and everyone. A lot of them are, but a lot of them aren't. So I don't know who's who. So awesome. I'm glad you're on. Thank you so very much for hopping on and checking it out. So thank you. So Rich had to go, Longitalis, but I'm going to go over the next one, which is one of my favorites of all time. And that is Tritherian. All right, Tritherian is a great Tritherian's cat, and he's up right now. I had to, if you notice that picture, I had to edit out a lot of type to get clean it all up to get that spear in the picture there. Chaotic Good worshipped during the wars. Went way up according to the Carl Sargent books. From the Ashes went way up. Is a favorite of the Norwell Headhunters, which you're gonna see tomorrow night. Is Bladestorm worships, Falara, the Sundered Spear worships. A lot of my player characters, like Bill is the highest. Trevin Nim, he's like 12th or 13th level now, specialty priest of Tritherian. We have a lot of Tritherian. We have a Barbarian who worships Tritherian, one of Walt's characters. And
it's
the good thing about
deity for good line adventurers, because it gives you it's almost made for adventurers in a way. You can go out there and do good things and slay evil. It can't be that's perfect for
absolutely, and they don't really care how they get it done. So normally, retired Navy Will Ket Almwell, you missed Len was on, you missed him, and Mike is having internet issues. So normally we have more people on Legends Lore, but we're getting through this pretty well. So Tritherian hates especially organized evil, lawful evil. And they hate lawful neutral Fultus worshippers worse. And they see them stuffy.
They're very oppressive
and stuffy. So they despise lawful neutral as much as they despise evil. So you get some pretty interesting dynamics there, where it's not just a normal good versus evil struggle. Plus their specialty priests are really cool. And which I said we would go talk about in the future. It's just it's a great deity. It really is. So,
and one that if it weren't there, I would
yep,
definitely
Bill.
wanted to invent one, because it feels such a he feels a perfect, a really needed niche, so to speak, in a fantasy world. Because you can
Yeah.
really imagine that priest like that will be very supportive. Most people will be very supportive of him, and a lot of rulers will hate him. And his clerics. So yeah.
So, Rob, did you you play the Fultus worshiper priest in Carlos's game? Is that what happened? So, credit the late Jim Holloway for putting the character in those characters. That's always a good thing, you know. And
Yeah.
it's a shame, you know. We've lost a lot of great people left and right. You know, it's a real. Oh, okay. Oh, your game Friday night. Okay, your game that you DM. That's awesome. Okay, fantastic. I was paladin in John's game using Carlos's module. Erroneous though. Okay, cool, excellent, very nicely done. You'll see a lot of Tritherian discussion tomorrow night at the beginning of the adventure, called the ambush tomorrow night at
Awesome.
yes, at 7:30. You know, barring a major disaster, but yeah. Oh, there we go. Shout out's not working now. It could be possible. Oh, there it goes. It's just delayed.
It took a while. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna hit one up.
Yep.
I didn't put the picture up because I forgot. I don't know how this happened, and someone, if you know out there, let me know how Mayhem came to creation all of a sudden out of nowhere and basically from the ashes. Correct? Mayhem was like brought.
But it's a. Was it prior to Carl Sargent era, or was it during Carl Sargent?
I think it was during.
Yeah, it was that era when she popped up everywhere and became the.
Yeah, it says specifically she's not of Earth, but she's been brought to Earth.
That is the only thing that bothers me. Otherwise, I love her. Yeah,
I love the deity Mayhem. Mayhem's good.
That was what I was going to say. It would be more awesome if she were a hero that rose up and became a deity, so to speak, just like Cuthbert is said to be coming from the mortal ranks too.
Yeah, I would have liked that better. I really would have.
You can change it.
And yeah, absolutely. I've never gone there with it and said, oh, you know, she's from Mars or whatever, you know, or just kind of got a combative retributive aspect, but in lawful good form. And okay, cool. Sure, that makes total sense. It's a rising deity in Hardby. Okay, and that's right in a lot of the writings of Hardby, which conflicts with the Ouija, however you pronounce it, worshippers there, which tend to hold the power in the oligarchy, you know, and at the throne of wood. So you have that conflict, and then it makes for a real good specialty priest class. It does, so. But she's limited in spells because she's really only, I think she's a demigod or lesser. I always forget, Bill. She's a demigod, but she has access to this protection and ward sphere of 6th level. So that's kind of a benefit. So demi, right? But she has that benefit. So you get access to 6th level spells at 9th level, which is really sick. Some spells. And I know, just like Tritherian, she's taken on a lot with our class, with our players really like Mayhem. So, Anna, do you utilize Mayhem at all?
I've started to a little bit, and now I'm going to write her in big in my upcoming campaign.
Okay.
And the way I've dealt with it is that she is a hero from the war on Ayus. I haven't decided exactly where she's supposed to be from, and that could be kind of a myth. But she rose in the ranks and was kind of a paladin that was very successful, and she became a hero, and she was elevated up into divine godhood, and she's now coming back and she's joining. So it's a way to get women fighters to join. So in Shieldlands they have a special temple for female fighters and paladins that is the cult of Mayhem. And it's officially approved, so to speak, as a way to deal with it. So Heronius and Mayhem has a kind of a friendly rivalry, who see who can be the most professional, the most successful, and beat each other like two football teams. and so,
Nice.
so they're kind of so they have that is really, I haven't decided where to put her from, so to speak, but I think the time frame will be that she was kind of the first, was a hero that came from nowhere, so to speak, and became very, and so on, and then she died in battle, and she was canonized in a way, so to speak, and I have to kind of make the story get the details in there, but I want her to be her clergy now running a kind of, I wanted a model for a good cult, and I thought Mayaheen would be perfect for that.
Okay.
And it's a way to revive the old, more stale old Palor and the Heronius that had been around and could see as too macho and stuff. So it would be a perfect complement for that. So you can kind of rally your whole population into on a war footing rather than just men.
When she drowns, Asher, what's going to happen? When she drowns, I'll play a Rennie. I'm playing a Paladin and Mayheen in one game. We have on her.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what that means. Shipbound or something. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, Anna, you want to hop up with one here? You want to discuss?
We have to go into Heronius because we talked about the other ones. So we have to talk about the Paladin god himself, so to speak, or the
absolutely
most warlike of all the good. Tritherion and
here we go.
Heronius are the kind of the two that have they're fighting over who is the most martial and warlike of all the good gods. And I guess Mayaheen in a way too.
Yeah, but Heronius is more powerful. So Heronius is definitely more powerful.
And also the one with the much longer tradition.
Yes.
You get more powerful simply because you've been around much longer. Mayaheen is the new kid on the block, so to speak, when it comes to religions, the one that just popped in. But the
you have and it's interesting. And Bill, you brought this up, if you're still on Celestia Scoring, saying that there's a third brother between Heronius Hexstar and there's a third one that was killed. Correct, Bill?
Okay,
Glory Axes are awesome. They are. So this, all right. I'm going to do a crazy moment.
Yeah.
Please forgive me for the Stratus, he says, is the deity that was the third brother. Here comes my crazy moment. Oh, look at this. Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, we have someone. Gary coming.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, awesome.
Here's my 5th edition crazy moment.
Yep.
Glory Axes wield swords now. That drives me nuts. Okay. Why did you change them from being Glory Axes to sword wielders? I don't understand that for Heronius.
That change had been around since the early 3rd edition. Yeah.
It was it? Yeah, it was done in 3rd?
Yeah. It was changed even long back in the day. Yeah. I think it's because the Axis is so tied to dwarfs and others. So sword is more kind of standard chivalric and stuff, and I kind of like it, so I gone with swords all along. So yeah,
I know Heronius wields a sword, but they're called Glory Axes, the priest class. So hell, whatever. It's another.
Yeah.
Gary, what's up, man?
Hey guys.
Hi.
How are you? You hanging in there?
I am, but I wasn't able to hear the first hour, so
it's okay. Len was on talking the tarot deck for most of it, so we're bouncing around. We're hitting only the ones that I'm comfortable with talking about, all the main ones. Yeah, good deities. I talked I talked about Grey Talk on Friday night, 9 p.m. Eastern too.
Oh, great.
Yep, absolutely. So, Jay, it turns you've been angry longer than you knew. No, I'm not angry about it. All right, knightly characters more standards for paladins. I understand it. I didn't see a need to make the change. All right, just in my game, they're Glory Axes still, and they wield battle axes. I just like it. So, what do you think about that, Gary?
What are we talking about, Heronius?
Yeah, changing them from battle axe to sword.
Well, I always liked the old school battle axe. I think it was a nice twist, on a regular chivalric knight. But I don't see why they couldn't use swords. It's just not their preferred weapon.
Right. I agree. Do you know much about Stratus?
Stratus the third. What would he be? He'd probably be lawful neutral.
Okay.
Or, so he was, I guess, the third child of Stern Alia, the demigoddess. I can't remember what the module she was mentioned in right now, but essentially she had 3 children. One of them was Stratus, and he was like the god of sort of generals and tacticians and that sort of thing. So, and I think he's been killed. So I think he's not an active power right now. So that left the 2 brothers alone.
So what I did, and don't flay me, I said this a couple times. I poured it in a Forgotten Realms deity to do the battle tactics and the lawful neutral aspect, and I love the deity, and I made it. Bill, you can back me up on this because we did it jointly. We put the Red Knight in. I love the Red Knight. It's just it's very that's all it is. And the Red Knight has nothing to do with Heronius and Hextor, but it's just a separate deity. Tim loves it too. There you go. So it's Tim approved. It just because that Stratus filled a gap with
in my Greyhawk, that gap was tended to be filled by Dairn.
Okay, Dairn.
She's a hero deity of the Great Kingdom, who's much involved in defense and battles, and while she doesn't shade into the offense side as much, she kind of fills that role as sort of a neutral.
Is there data written up on Dairn anywhere?
Not very much. I would check Living Greyhawk Journal number 2, maybe.
Because of the 6th start. All right, so Living Greyhawk Journal number 2. Let me write that down.
I think there was a Living Greyhawk Journal that covered all the quasi and hero deities. And it had an expanded list that included people like Dairn.
Okay.
But as to when she was born or what, largely she's been associated with the Aerti. She's probably involved in the construction of some of their most infamous cities and castles. So.
Oh, cool. Well, maybe that's another one to be written up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And updated.
I mean, she could definitely be considered on the verge of demigodhood. So.
I could always say the Red Knight is Dairn. Or something. I could always, you know what I mean? I could always say that.
You could, and there's nothing wrong with importing deities from other settings.
An occasional one here and there.
Yeah.
So we're talking good deities, Gary. Do you got one you want to throw out there? Because I am bad on the obscure ones. I am really bad. I mean, one that you like to use.
I imagine you guys have already talked about Pelor.
Yeah, we did. Pelor was the first one we covered, but we can go back to it. It's not a problem. If you got a little twist on it.
No, please. Yeah.
I mean, for me, he is the most Christian-like of the gods of Greyhawk, sort of the the father-like figure. And one thing that I kind of noticed as a pattern in the material is that he kind of sends emissaries. That's his thing. He loves sending emissaries. And when he needs another, he sends another. So a lot of the lesser gods are actually tied to him one way or the other.
Yep.
So you have saints like Venator and Bane. Yep. You have Mayahane, demigoddess.
Yeah, we just right before you came on, we talked about Mayahane.
Yeah, and I think that very much follows sort of the Christian structure of having saints and other intermediaries that act in between mortals and this greater power. So he likes to remain aloof. He likes to have this
I see him as the opposite of Asmodeus in a way, that meaning the ruler of the highest domains in the multiverse, in the outer planes, and then you have Asmodeus on the lawful evil side ruling the 9 hells, so to speak. And so in that way, I see them. There's similarity between them that way.
Yeah. So in my campaign, I created this concept called what did I call it? Sort of like children of the cosmos or something like that. So there are greater gods and there are greater gods. Some greater gods were there from the beginning, and Pelor and Therisdun were there from the beginning. Those kind of gods are, supreme even among greater gods. So. In some sense, they're not technically any more powerful, but they're, they have more experience, they have more time in the multiverse, so that translates into a lot more influence. And they tend to represent really fundamental aspects of life, like Neril representing death. Pelor could be said to represent life. Rao and Encabulos are in much opposition. One insanity, one sanity.
Oh, cool.
And then I think you could say that, Bakab obviously represents magic, and maybe he's the guy who doesn't really have an opposition, but who else? Istis, maybe one of those, I think.
Yeah, and Istis is kind of interesting. She's kind of Bacloonish in origin too. So she comes from although I have heard different, not a common god in the Flanese, more like the Bacloonish idea of
right. Although for me, god racial origin is completely the point of view of the humans who are worshiping them.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Unless you're specifically a human who rose to demigodhood, Istis doesn't have a race. She's not. She's not Bacloonish.
Just like the evil ones, they don't care.
Some of these gods may be worshipped on many continents, under many names, with different genders, with different appearances.
That's how I have it too. And also, I also have it as, and now I'm spelling, I mentioned it on my seminar, that I have Hieronymus and Hextor being aspects of Bahamut and Tiamat.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So really interesting.
They are aspects of them, so to speak. So that's the fight between the lawful good and the good and evil that way. So they are the equivalent of herald of hell and the messenger of good, so to speak. So Bahamut is the force behind Hieronymus, and Bahamut is the force behind Hextor.
Yeah. I mean, if it were me, it would be quite messy. There would be powers that the Bacloonish worship that are also worshipped in the East, but under different names, and so you could even have schisms and wars between these people, even though they're worshiping the same god. I think Foltus is the best example. Have you guys covered Foltus yet?
Yeah, we did, but we can always go over it. Yeah, the lawful good, lawful neutral is way different.
Foltus was interesting from the very beginning that he was presented by Gygax. He was the only power that seemed to break this rule that, you had to be worshipped by people of your own alignment. I mean, he somehow, for some reason, tolerates lawful evil.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And even though it may be a minority, a tiny minority, he gives them spells. So that tells you something about his priorities. I mean,
but he's more interested in power and the number of worshippers,
order.
Than moral and ethics, so to speak.
Well, he has this one true path, the one true way.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're on that path, even if you aren't morally perfect, he's accepting of you.
Yeah, and also that makes sense. A god that wants the maximum number of worshippers, you can't be too fussy about who worships you, as long as they do it.
Yeah, if Casey's around, I mean, there's a bandit kingdom that was devoted to the lawful, evil, neutral.
Dimri. You have Dimri that is still a nation that are the most fanatic Poltus ones around, and even more so than Pale.
Yeah, if you want a kingdom that's good but could be burning witches, the Pale is your place.
Pale is awesome that way, as interesting, and also see Poltus as an interesting alternative or different version of Pelor in a way, because they seem to have a large overlap if you go back in history, and then they kind of diverged over time and become different. So
I love Foltus just because you never know. I mean, you don't really know about the worshippers until you meet them.
Yeah.
And I love a lawful neutral zealot to really throw a wrench into the party, trying to talk to this person, and it's not sinking in. And it's not going to,
Exactly.
And so
at this point, if you had a lawful good paladin of Foltus who was heroic, that would be the twist. That would be the shock.
Yeah.
But they must exist.
Yeah, Sargent went a little far with it. I agree.
Yeah,
and I ran with it.
Yeah, but he also Sargent also pointed out the new extreme, the outliers a bit, because that's how you make an interesting game setting. Not about talking about the mundane in between average. It's about the extremes and the conflict and stuff. So yeah.
We're gonna hit on this, Extort, for you. The question is, I allow lawful neutral, and I think Gary discussed this on the Evil show. I allowed lawful neutral Hexstar worshippers, even priests, in my game so that we can utilize that deity. But Extort says, well, on that ground, doesn't Hexstar have good and neutral worshippers? It may have a couple good worshippers, but not clerics.
Interesting. Yeah.
I think most gods have neutral worshippers,
right,
for sure.
Okay. But
I think
good's pushing it for Hexstar.
That is really pushing it.
Yeah, even a worshiper.
I can imagine in the history of the Great Kingdom when the more maximal threat was external, dragons, Earthland, necromancers, undead, demons, you would have Hextorians and Heronians fighting alongside each other, maybe in competition, but they would know who the number one threat was. Things started to break down when there was no more enemies.
Yeah.
Except from within.
Yeah, and also that when the Great Kingdom became so large, then there you can have Heronius and stuff moved west. A lot of them moved west and settled down in Furiundi and Veluna and stuff like that. So you had a separate one that was so separate from the Hextorians and back in the day. So that was kind of a new culture that was much more good aligned than the old Great Kingdom were. So that was, yeah, but I think you perfectly, I'll buy that whole hog, what you said about that. I think that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the concept of a revival or Puritanism seems to be a recurring thing among humans. So it's not a unusual thing to have sex in SECTS.
Yeah, and
in a fantasy realm where people decide to break off because they want to purify their form of the religion.
And the religion can go dogmatic and warlike and become a complete menace and then settle down and become quiet and tranquil again. Meaning Christianity has gone through this, and Islam and others. I mean, there are plenty of examples of peaceful religions that gone stir crazy and gone on whatever horrible path for a while and then come back again to more kind of.
So one of the main, Bill's got a cleric mage, a main character in one of the main adventure groups, pretty high level now, like 11, and she's been Hexter cleric mage forever, and just on that edge of lawful neutral. Never has done really anything that I can remember that's overtly evil, but just that's the way she goes, and it works. It works in the game. So definitely. Is pretty neat. Cruzana, that's Cruzana. Yeah. Good.
And also sometimes you want the oddball as a character because that's kind of fun and interesting. You don't want the cookie cutter paladin every time or whatever. You want to have something that kind of questions the regular. That can also make perfect sense why that character is out adventuring rather than serving in a regular temple or doing something that is normal that the rest of the people do.
Yeah. So Hextor put, I thought it was odd that Knights of Heronius and Hextor would follow a Knight Commander of the opposite faith throughout history. That was the era of détente, right?
Yeah.
That's basically what it would be, Gary. Do you have any other way to describe it?
No, I think that's a good way. Yeah.
They're trying to win each over by competing for a number of followers and political influence and stuff. And then, like you said, when the political situation changed and all of a sudden the external threats were no longer there, you start looking for new enemies. So,
absolutely, within.
Right, the same thing happened to the Great Kingdom itself. Yeah.
Yeah.
No more new places to conquer.
Yep.
It happens a lot of places in history.
Distances and
like Rome.
Yeah.
So all right, how about these two deities that I just am like they're not that popular, or maybe I'm wrong, but how about Celestian and Farlane?
Oh, I love them. They are fantastic.
Okay.
Wait,
but
what are their alignments? I thought they were neutrally.
I think they're
No,
neutral
they're-
good
they're
tendencies, aren't they?
They're good.
Oh no, I apologize. Farlane's neutral. Celestian's neutral good tendencies. My
Yeah.
bad.
Mhm.
Farlane's neutral. So let's just
Yeah.
do. Celestian is neutral good.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Farlane's true neutral. You're correct on that. My bad. But
Yeah.
Celestian is neutral good according to this. According to this Gygax article. So.
He has a small
They're
good
brothers.
in the old world of Greyhawk. Guess there he has a little G, not a big G, but it's small.
Yeah, it's almost like Gygax went from a 9 to a 27 alignment system.
Yeah.
In his own campaign pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about Celestia. I mean, he must be really esoteric. I mean, he's the god of the sky. So, if you were an astrologer, an astronomer,
or spelljammer, according to this, yeah,
but also,
Cat on wall, yeah.
But
Spelljammer, it's big.
Go back to old times, meaning the stars in the sky when you had no modern clocks, no modern timekeeping, and to farmers, whatever. Someone who can keep the track of time, to understand and explain the world and stuff.
True.
Look to human history. Every culture was full of these seers and stargazers and stuff like that. So it makes perfect sense that a fantasy world has a priest that is the specialist for that. But I don't see him in the campaign that a lot of regular people go around worship him. No, but people that
sages
need to understand. Yeah, meaning court wizards and people who wants to if you want to take a fleet and go across an ocean, you have to more. He's kind of a consultant, in a specialized consultant, rather than running a temple with lots of worshippers and stuff. So that's how I see him. But Farlan is a more interesting one. If there's a AAA version in the Flanese, Farlan will be the one running it.
What's really cool about him is he's probably one of the most powerful gods you can actually run into on a road.
Yeah.
I mean, Biori, we're not even sure she's anthropomorphic, but Farlan, he seems to wander the roads and ways of the earth and constantly map it and know its ways. I mean, he's kind of druidical in some ways, I think.
Yeah, I see him as the he comes from that culture, so to speak, and he's more and then became common, and also I see it as the one that all the ones, if you're going to take a journey that is in a fantasy world, must be very, very dangerous to leave home, and that means that you sacrifice a bit to him, and there's little shrines here and there where you do it, and you kind of hope that the priest of Farlang will be there to help you if you run into trouble, and I can see them as the consultant, the fantasy version of AAA, basically.
Yeah, that reminds me of one of my basic ways I think I like to view average people in a fantasy setting, especially like Greyhawk, is that most people are polytheistic.
Exactly.
They're not monotheistic.
Yeah.
They're gods for every purpose, for every season, for death and life. So why would you worship one god exclusively? The one god can't help you with everything. So it's actually unusual to have these really strong monotheistic people, clerics.
Meaning Pale is an outlier in the Flannies.
Exactly.
That's the way I see it.
And anybody who rejects the existence of other gods would be an outlier. For the most part, it looks like the pantheons kind of hang together and recognize each other.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you do have those gods who are like, no one exists but me. They're all fiends. And I think.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. So I think the example of donating something to have a safe journey is a really good one, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and I think I totally agree with you, Gary, but there's another side to it too. I don't think a lot of priesthoods don't run regular normal temples as we would see it, and people go and worship, and they will run their own institutions and stuff. They will be part of the fabric of society, meaning the Silchers priest will run commerce. The Merchants Guild is run by the Silchers priests, and their temple is where they will meet and have the bazaar every week and stuff like that. They are simply the ones that run the supermarket and the shopping center in a town and a city. That's their thing. And the I would see the phalanx. They would run the what they will guide for a fee. They will guide people. They will show up stand outside the city gates and say, "Do you want to go to that city? We can guide you and we can help you. Give me a coin and we will guide you away." They will be the travel agents. They will do a lot of these things that we have other services for. They will take care of the service. They will wander the roads just to help people in need and stuff, because that's the way they can support themselves.
Definitely.
So a lot of temples and stuff are not ordered. They don't run a big building where people go once a week to pray to them. They run service.
Also a natural companion to adventurers.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So some of them are like Rao runs a kind of I would say a consulting service for people who want to do diplomacy and want to know about statehoods and a whole bunch of stuff like that. And if you're a good ruler and you want a mercenary, then the Heronius Temple of Heronius can supply a bunch of good line knights to help you and stuff like that. So meaning there's a service for all sorts of stuff. And that's how I see a lot of religions actually. That's how they maintain themselves. That's their purpose, to run various parts of society.
So
yeah, I guess I should mention that I wrote a 2-part article on paladins for Greyhawk, which probably affects this discussion greatly. Yeah. Essentially, Eric kind of commissioned the article, and we kind of agreed to loosen the definition of a paladin a little bit, much like the old, plethora of paladins article did. Mm-hmm. Years ago. So we kind of made a dividing line between, we thought, the faiths that might have paladins and those that didn't. So there's a bunch of good faiths, but not all of them have paladins. So if you read that article, you'll see the philosophical differences, the shadings that each good god has on its own philosophy. So
do you remember what dragon it's in?
I think it's later Living Greyhawk Journals.
Yeah,
it's Living Greyhawk Journal.
Before,
okay,
yeah,
it's Living Greyhawk Journals.
9 flavors of paladins or something like that.
But I suspect one of them may have appeared in a dragon, and one of them may have appeared in a dungeon. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. There is a Shoes of Farlane magic item, Moose, and that's an awesome item. So it's one of the best. It's actually in the. I think it's an Arcana, not in this. It's actually an Arcana item, if I recall correctly. But wow. So far, good, very, very good discussion on all these on the deities. Gary, you got one that you just you're chomping at the bit to discuss.
Well, I've just got this page open that has a list of all the deities I'm looking. There's a lot of good deities. I just noticed a lot of
we haven't gotten to Iridians
deities. I mean, so if I just start. Mm-hmm. I'll just start at the first corner of this. Alana. Have you guys talked about Alana?
No, we haven't yet. No, Alana's a huge one in my campaign. It's one of the biggest I've ever had, and we haven't even discussed her yet. Let me get to her picture here. Alana of the Forests.
I mean, she's kind of interesting in that
she
could be considered sort of the goddess of half-elves. In many ways, herself being almost like a half-elf.
Yeah, I agree 100%. In fact, in the old days, that was the main deity of all the multi-class half-elves we had back in the 80s. That was it. I mean, because this did not exist yet, really, right? With all the there was Corel and Larethian and Alana. That was it before this, you got all the Elven and Soul Northalanderer. That was really what you had for choices. So everyone gravitated to Alana. There's a ton of them. I agree. And then she's a ranger, which is cool, right? So a lot of rangers worship Alana. Woodsmen worship Alana,
I mean, definitely heroic. I mean, definitely considered a very good-oriented god. Maybe a little, like you said, a little more subterfuge than outright combat with evil, but definitely probably really popular in all those central forests.
Yeah, big in this. I have big along the gnarly, because the gnarly, the swine maids are all Alana worshippers, correct?
Yeah,
The Swamays of the
Lakes.
Gnarly Forest
Yeah.
worship Alana. The Gnarly Forest Rangers are Alana worshippers as well. So I have a lot of Alana worshippers that are the half elven, Selenians that I have all up and down that whole area of my campaign. It's Wild Coast as well. So, yep.
Yeah, I see her as the link between the elves and Old Faith.
Okay.
So I see it as a god that the Flan kind of took and used from the elves and took over and she became part of the Old Faith as well. So she's a goddess that is worshipped both by the Seldar in the Elven pantheon and also by the Old Faith. So she kind of spans those two, and that's why she's kind of very common among half elves too, and also among druids and half elven druids and stuff too. So I just saw that she spanned that cultural divide, so she's on both sides of that fence.
Jason Puppet Dad found it one article of Gary's Dragon 306, page 96. So that's one of your Paladin articles. Let's see if we can figure out where the second one is. So to take a look up at them, but so
there was going to be a third one that was going to cover some demi-human paladins, but we never got around to it.
Yeah.
All right, so you.
Oh, sorry.
No, you think the other one was Living Greyhawk journal, right? Somewhere, the second Paladin article.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking in the chat. Okay, so Puppet Dad, he posted one of them.
Yeah, the other Puffler Paladins is not you, definitely.
No.
And it's interesting that Eric Mona might have been influenced in Pathfinder 2. They turned the Paladins into a champion class, and that could be of any alignment. So and Paladin is the lawful good variant of it, so to speak. And then you can have the anti-Paladin being the lawful evil ones, and you can have all sorts of different champions. So the ones that fighters that fight for a cause, so to speak, are champions.
So Gary, getting off on a tangent here now that we mentioned Eric Mona. Have you watched Eric Mona's play yet on Saturday night?
That was so good.
No, but
Mike.
You need to.
I've been hearing the reviews. It sounds legendary.
That's what I'm doing.
It was so legendary. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Great role play by him, and then just what a great twist at the end.
Good.
A lot. Thanks, Moose. A lot of people saw it coming, but
it was so good. That was it was so very.
I've got a bunch of streams I got to catch up on this weekend.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic. By far, our highest rated show ever.
Mm-hmm.
We almost average over 5 hours 200. That's how crazy that night was. So I don't know if we'll ever get there again but it was such. And I wanted to say thank you to you all. It was relish exactly, Seeker. It was so and plus having Fritz also worship Ralishes just made it even that much better. Yeah. And Fritz actually is an NPC. He does worship Ralishes, so that was perfect. Yeah. Paladins of Greyhawk Dungeon 104. Wow, it was a dungeon. All right, beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, which doesn't even make sense as a dungeon article, but
dungeon number 104. Beautiful. All right, so I got both now. I'm gonna look at both of them and put them in. Beautiful.
Has some nice artwork in them, I think.
Awesome. Definitely something to look up on the Paladins going to good deities. The other thing I'm gonna say is, my brain just shut off. So Troller Games was so kind. If you haven't, and you signed up for Virtual GreyhawkCon and you have not downloaded from the email I sent every single person the Troller Games free swag, you should do it immediately. You need to look at the second page of the 2-page PDF, and you'll be as shocked as I am. There is a coupon there for every single person of $25 to their site. Yes. That went out to over 200 some people. So yes, it's a one-time use coupon of $25 on their site for anyone who signed up for. I mean, that's unbelievable. So
I mean, that pays for the sign up,
which is $3.12. Yeah, absolutely. So I know it's a spoiler seeker, but I want people to utilize it because Troller Games really stepped up. Really stepped up. I mean, I had Chuck and Steven Chenault playing in the game, and just it was crazy. So, hey, good night. Good night. So, Sun's saying good night. All right. I'll try not to be too loud. So, yes, future DM right there. But I just wanted to say that now, what was on my mind. We're going to definitely raid into their game tonight, just so everyone knows. All right. How about we go off on a little bit of a tangent here?
Yeah.
And talk about this one. I don't know, Gary, if you like it or not, but I like these, but the quasi deities, one of my favorites. Merlin's.
Yes. I want to hear Gary and about him. Yeah.
I mean, he's in the Paladins article.
Oh, he is? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, we try to come up with a spin on him that keeps his technology from infecting the rest of the setting, but at the same time leaves him there as a potential, god for some paladin that wants to have something a little unusual. He's a follower of Heronius. So, and because he's a quasi or hero, you don't actually get spells from him. You get them from Heronius, but he's like a sect within the faith of Heronius. Yet again, another follower of Heronius spread around doing good. But he's the classic Western sheriff or good guy that has to face down evil. So great god for paladin.
And here's my big but on that. The Slavers reference developed the Merlin as a deity and gave a specialty priest class specifically in that book that has all the abilities. So when did that happen, right?
Well, I would say then they should have made him a demigod at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. But they had to have at some point because he can get 5th level spells. So but it never goes over it. And the Slaver's reference is just written up, and it's there's a priest of Kellenin working with a priest of Merlin, and the priest of Merlin is actually a dwarf. Tanisov is his name, if I recall correctly. With Fina Finkella, and they're both working, and they're going after an evil necromancer who's in that area of the Wild Coast, and there's a whole adventuring party. So there's a little bit of a disconnect as to where he's ascended to now. You know what I'm saying? I guess you have it however you want it, right? In your game. But I have one specialty priest of Merlin in my campaign, at least.
He could have been a quasi in 576 and a demigod by 591.
That's true.
Yeah.
So would you relate Heward and Keatum as good? They're both, they say, neutral with good tendencies. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think whenever you put the tendency, you kind of almost treat it as the actual alignment. But I mean, Keatum seems to be very interested in healing. So he's always creating these ointments and balms and stuff. So I think he's he also seems to have affinity for elves and lives in that mysterious forest that we almost have no canon about, the Celadon.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Which it seems like there's got to be like a big elven kingdom there, but we just have no canon about it.
The Druid is supposed to live there too.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big oversight.
Kind of and it's not that enormous, huge of a forest. So.
Well, this article says the following: that here's the traveling companions with this group. So Zagig travels around with Keatum and Merlin. Keatum, Merlin, and Mordenkainen. Celestian, Zagig, and Keatum. That's crazy. I mean, so they're hanging out with deities.
Trust me, Jay, in the late 80s, I created charts in order to track all this and try to develop all these relationships. Oh, yeah. I mean, when I came up with the Company of Seven in the 90s and started to write it up, it's because of all that research I had done and trying to figure out who hangs out with who.
Right.
And we don't really know what happened in the real Gygax campaign, and we may never know, but I had to invent a shadow version of it, what I thought might have happened, and that's what I came up with by using these relationships from the old 83 glossography.
Phew. Man. Because this quasi-deity article is by Gary Gygax, Whereas the Saint article is from Scott Benny, correct?
Right.
So yeah, so this is actually a Gary Gygax writing.
So for those who are keeping track, Scott Benny, the mapping is Saint Cyril the Relentless is from Foltus.
Okay.
Saint Bane is from Pelor. Saint Kargoth, of course, Demogorgon, and Saint Eliodor is we're leaning towards Rao.
I have it right here. I don't think it says.
Okay. Yeah. What source is that written up somewhere?
Right here.
Oh, Saint Lysander. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking to see if Eliodor it says in
where
here.
Where is that article?
This says November '83 Dragon. So I'm assuming this is Gary's ultimate inspiration. Is this article? Yeah. It was for me as well. Guess Eliodor is a guess, Gary, on Rao, because I don't see it. Doesn't. Yeah, it says neutral good alignment. So.
Mm-hmm.
He has a gift of time sight. Wouldn't that be more like a Celestian?
Well, if you look at it, it says like a group of gods gave him his powers. So
yeah,
he's neutral good too.
So I can't remember exactly the logic I used, but for some reason, the peace and reason thing triggered me to say that Rao made the most sense. But I'll take a look at that and get back to what my actual. It's been a subject of debate on Grey Talk many times.
Cool, because it says here that he's linked between him and the plane of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Right, which you could think, Lendor or Sindor.
Right,
but it's not always so literal.
True.
The link could have been created by any number of gods. It's just that he seems to have access to the future.
I have to ask this question. Is there any chance to get him on a show? Scott Benny. Any chance at all? That would be an awesome person to get.
I mean, we could start the search again. I ran into him online maybe 15 years ago and mentioned the articles and mentioned how much I appreciated his original, and he confirmed a lot of my suspicions and seemed to be really pleased with what was done. So I found,
I'm going to start that search. I'm intrigued. Yeah. I'm intrigued.
I don't think he works in the industry. I think he may be a normal person. But,
imagine that.
But he may still love to talk about freelancing back in the 80s.
Oh my gosh. I mean, he's done so much.
Yeah.
So much stuff. That would be awesome. All right, here's one that has intrigued me, Deity, and there's two of them that I found from like Lesser Iridian, but one I really want to concentrate on is Deleb. I don't know much about Deleb, but I kind of like this Andy Miller article, right? I got these, and I just started, 40 years, I haven't really divulged into them, but you got Tro and Deleb are both good. Most of them are neutral or evil for the most part, but what can you guys and gals tell me about Deleb? If anything.
Yeah, I mean, he's always struck me as sort of the god of learning, higher learning.
Very close to Rao.
Yeah, he's very similar to Rao, but more. I kind of treat him as the god who, invents magical books, that kind of thing. So he's kind of really the nerd of the gods.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay.
Rao is a diplomat.
But he's good. But he's good. So he must have a view. Good. He has a view of knowledge that must be very positive.
Mm-hmm. It says he's allied with Bakub, St. Cuthbert, Lear, Zuokin, Foes, Cerul, Hexter. Symbols, an open book. And
allied with Hextor?
No, Foes, Cerul, Hexter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I was like...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going... Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So...
Yeah.
It's interesting. He can't... okay, clerics, yes. Special priest can turn undead. I was just curious.
I mean, he'd make a very weird choice for an adventuring cleric, but...
well, how about a cleric in my campaign as a mace, sage, too?
You may remember the hedge wizard from Old Dragon.
Yeah.
So he would make a perfect god for a hedge wizard.
Yeah, and also Deleb is a perfect quest giver and someone who can get the party started, so to speak, and guide them to find something.
A lot of the viewers, Jim Sagia, Asher, Dorgum, all are using I use Deleb a lot. So,
Yeah.
do you think that is Scott Benny? I do not know. Do you know where he went to school? Was he Canadian, Gary?
I don't know, but the age.
Oh yeah, here it is. Former
right.
freelance writer, TSR. You found it. Oh my gosh, someone found it. Wow, unbelievable.
That's it.
I'm gonna
Awesome.
add friend has just clicked. So
Perfect.
Ken Onwell, thanks. Thank you so. Wow, that was quick. He's from British Columbia, so I'm going to try and get him on and see if he wants to come on, because I think that would be a fantastic discussion night as well. So I'm going to leave that up.
Yeah.
So great job! Wow, beautiful. I don't know anything about Atroa. Bringer of Spring, Wind Daughter, Provider, Shy One, First Sister, Lesser Power of the Beastlands. Neutral good.
Yeah, it's one of the.
Yeah, I mean, I only tend to think of her in terms of her aspect as one of the 4 seasonal gods and wind gods.
Yeah.
They all seem to have the same job. They just have different attitudes about it.
Yeah, and different parts of that. They take turns. They work in shifts.
I like to imagine that during the festival weeks, they kind of turn the throne over to the next one.
Yeah.
So there's a transition during that time, and it's a time of uncertainty, and maybe magic is unpredictable.
Right.
You could almost imagine what would happen if the god of winter did not take his throne. What if he was captured?
Mm-hmm.
Would winter be stopped in its tracks? I mean, you could come up with a lot of interesting scenarios with these gods.
Yeah.
You know, if the goddess of spring didn't arrive, would seeds not take root? You know, who knows?
So it seems he doesn't mind talking about things. Lord interview from 3 years ago. Well, beautiful. So interesting people, and that's Steam. All right. Well, I'm going to make an attempt. I'm glad you guys are all helping me out here. I really appreciate that. I'm going to reach out to him tomorrow in the afternoon when I'm back in my home office. So it is really, really appreciated. Now I forgot. See, I hate that. Now I go. Everything just flows out of my head. So while as we're winding down, Gary, you got any others you would like to hit a couple points on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm spotting a few that caused me to think, wow. I mean, Jorami, goddess of volcanoes, is good.
Yeah, in the Len world. Yeah.
I mean, volcanoes are almost always associated with angry deities who, you know, are mad or evil. She seems to be the opposite of what you would expect. So that one's a very interesting one. Is that a soul deity?
Yes. Jorami is Len.
But
did Len discuss her earlier?
Yes.
Okay.
No. We skipped Jorami. We didn't do Jorami. We did Lydia.
Yeah.
We did Lydia. She's a goddess of arguments too, if I recall correctly.
Which fits the volcanoes thing, but for some reason she's good. She's good about it.
But there is a good
she does not accept sacrifices thrown into her.
Yeah. But it's interesting because volcanoes have a very positive effect on the surrounding lands, meaning they
true. We have to destroy them.
So I guess from an agricultural based society, they probably understand that the volcano gives blessings as much as she takes things away, so to speak. So.
Well, it certainly blessed the Flannis by killing off most of the Soul.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
he also made the Soul pop over too, and cause mayhem too.
But it's interesting because you'd think she would be somehow associated with the Hell Furnaces.
Yeah, but no. Maybe.
Well,
yeah. Oh, I don't know. Yeah.
So I have 2 left. One that Jim Segia brought up is Alec Bar. And the other one is because I want to know more because of Jose Ortiz's great play of his pal as Inquisitor in my campaigns, Alater, which is a Flan, correct? Which I know nothing about at all. So, Gary, do you have anything on him?
Yeah, please, Gary. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was kind of a mess back in the 90s. Eric and I were trying to figure out what to do with this canon that we were left with. So Akbar is associated with Greyhawk, but very obtusely, because the Cup and Talisman are definitely part of the setting, but the modules that were written about them weren't explicitly put in the setting. So it was kind of a mess. So what we ended up deciding to do was say that Al-Akbar was the prophet, and that Al-Asran is the actual greater god that sent the cup and talisman. So that is in fact Pelor, yet again, Pelor.
Ah, okay.
So he sent these gifts in order to succor the Bakluni people from their, invoked devastation that they suffered. And I guess the cup and talisman probably fed them and healed them, and at least symbolically, and gave them the ability to reform their kingdoms up north and survive. But Al-Akbar, it doesn't seem to. We really don't seem to know a lot about what may have occurred to him. I think Fred may have done a little work on him in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer.
Fred Whining, okay.
Yeah, to sort of create a schism or a cult in the true faith and the exalted faith. I'm not an expert on it, so I'll have to defer to other people. But you just made me think of another, I think, lawful good Greyhawk god that's rarely mentioned, Azor Alk. So Azor Alk is a Baklunish god who is a paladin.
Yep.
And he is mentioned in Treasures of Greyhawk. So he has a sword that is in the Sea Prince, is called the Sword of Azor Alk. And it's like, one of those special blades. And one of the bits of lore, I think that may be mentioned either in Sargent's work or something else, says that he sleeps with 1,000 immortals on an island in the Dramage Ocean. So, I mean, it's really great lore. I mean, you could really do a lot with it. But yeah, he's a lawful good, I think, demigod.
I'm gonna have to check out that Treasures of Greyhawk, which adventure that he's in. That's pretty cool.
I think it may be in the hands of like Gian II, Prince Gian II.
Okay.
Back in the 570s.
Right.
The Treasure of Greyhawk really has a lot of treasures in it.
It does. It does.
To his name.
You have to pick through it, but much like Fate of Istis, while it seems like a module, it actually has a lot of lore in it that you could extract.
Excellent. And then Alatur, which is I know nothing about. And Jose it seems to be completely developed on it. By the way, I did reach out to the Geoff to try and get one of them on to discuss the Flan deities, and none of them were available tonight. So I did try to reach out to them. So
yeah, I'm looking at her. She's like in the Flan pantheon.
I just don't know.
And there's also Berai or Berai.
Berai's,
She's also, or he or she is also good. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about them. Obviously,
it's okay.
They're minor gods. Ethics is a very esoteric portfolio to have. So
I've always used Alatur as the Flan or the Old Faith equivalent of Rao in a way.
Huh.
Well, if they're both Flan, it would make sense maybe for Alatur to be some kind of emissary.
This is what
but Rao is also Flan too. Yeah.
It's always been a controversy, at least in the 80s and 90s, and the early discussions of Grey Talk, when we had Sean Reynolds and Gary Gygax and other people and Roger Moore online. Who is Saint Cuthbert the saint of? So
good question.
There's one obvious idea is that Saint Cuthbert was brought from another world, and of course he's not from Ortha at all, so that his sainthood is not relevant. Much like there's another saint, Carmichael of the Conflagration, who's also in the setting, hardly ever used, mentioned once, I think, but that's also straight from the real world. So there's a real world Saint Cuthbert. Maybe Gygax was just trying to borrow that real world Saint Cuthbert and bring him into Greyhawk. I tend to favor that he is in fact a follower of Rao.
Okay.
That makes good sense.
So centuries ago, this priest of reason started to see the need to preach to the common folk, and maybe reformulate his tenets in a way that were more common sense, wisdom. And after years and years and years of doing this, a natural schism was created. and his faith became distinct.
Yeah.
And I don't, have the timing for this, but it just seems like something that might have naturally happened, and it kind of explains why St. Cuthbert and Rao both seem to be in Valuna at the same time.
Exactly, there and yeah, that area. Yep.
Yeah. And some people wanted to make him a saint of Fultus, and I was like, I just don't think that that does not work.
I think it makes perfect sense, both geographically and thematically. Yeah.
Yeah. But St. Cuthbert is always, especially some of his sub-priests, he's one of the few gods who actually has 3 sub-priest classes within his own priesthood, which is kind of neat.
The Shippo and
So if Pelor is Christianity in general, and Fultus is Catholicism, you might say that St. Cuthbert is Protestantism. He is, a lot of these embodies a lot of these early Protestant faiths in Europe, and sort of the puritanical aspects of them.
Yep.
I'm going to save the demi-human deities for its own show.
Oh yeah, we can.
At
Yeah,
this
we
point.
can leave them for. Yeah, I think so. We talked Alona and a little bit about the elves, but it's.
Although it is interesting that Greyhawk has these single deities per demi-human race that bridge the gaps. We have, we mentioned Alana for elves and Ula for dwarves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is there something for gnomes or halflings? It seems like there might be.
Ula, priests of Ula can be all of them: human, dwarf, halfling, or gnome. All of them.
Yeah.
So that's we didn't even get to Ula. Ula's of miners and of the hills, and it's one of the most recent ones I've added to my specialty priest list, and it makes for a very, very nasty earth elementalist style specialty priest. So it's kind of a good class. Definitely is.
Did Len discuss Cord?
He did this is what he did. He did how Falcon is the only one who can calm him down. So he went over that Falcon, being his father and being good aligned and being the only one, second best fighter of the Sul gods, is the only one that can control Cord when Cord goes into a rage, which is pretty cool.
Which seems almost like the Norse myths in a little bit.
It does with Thor and Odin, right? So
right.
Yeah, absolutely. But then there was some crossover there. A lot of stuff gets stolen from other aspects. And considering that Thor and Odin were Gary Gygax's first 2 deities, in all of that they use for his setting, it makes sense. But Len has some pretty unique gods. So
yeah.
Len was going off on a tangent before we started about the dilemma that came up on Sunday night about alignment slip and slaying of orcs that surrendered and women and children orcs that had surrendered, and Len was pretty steadfast on slaughtering them is the only way to go, and which I think if you go back to the basis of Lord of the Rings, which is sometimes blasphemous, no elf is going to let an orc live. Just it's not going to happen, So I guess it just depends.
I guess the counter I would have for Len on that is the act of slaughtering that orc is not about them; it's about you. So if your action puts a stain on your soul or your moral code, it doesn't really matter, what the orc did or didn't do.
True.
You suffered a stain. So
I try and avoid it in gaming a lot. I try and not go there with orcish families or goblin families hanging. I just don't like going there, especially on stream. I just don't, and so I just don't have it happen.
Especially on stream. So yeah.
So
you don't have the little goblin baby with the big eyes?
No, I don't. Once
staring up at the sword.
But it makes a lot of sense that it doesn't show up that often, because adventurers normally will meet the warlike frontier humanoids, so to speak, that not unless they go back home to lands where they actually come from and live. So
it just seemed like Ayuza's orcs come from the Howling Hills, for instance, and whatever breeding or brooding happens is up there, and it's not happening in Doraka or his other cities. So you would be unlikely to encounter
Yeah.
orc villages and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I've sold it by making the kids and stuff really brutal too. I realized what would a really brutal orcish society, would look like? How would they bring up their kids? And I simply say, well, what they do is that they don't see their kids as something precious to cherish and behold. They want their kids to make sure that their offspring is up to belonging to the tribe. And that it's all about the tribe. So what they do is that they basically, when their little orcs comes out, they put them in a pit, and they let them live there. And the ones that are powerful and strong enough to climb out of it after a few months, they are the ones that, or years, so they are the ones that will actually be introduced into the tribe. So the kids basically eat each other in order to
they may be raised
brutal enough.
They may be raised communally.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not my kid or your kid. It's our tribe's kids, and they want as brutal survivalist fighters that that they can get the hands on. Meaning you need to be tough in order to be part of the tribe, and if you can't eat your siblings, then you're not good enough, so to speak. So they breed them that way. So the culture is really, I took like Sparta times 10, so to speak. That's
I think for orcs it is nurture and not nature.
Yeah.
But because I've had a few good orcs in my campaign.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
But the problem is that their culture is so powerful that you do end up with evil all the time.
Oh yeah, and you have
99% of the time.
Yeah, and also there you have the priests. They promote this. They enforce it and stuff. So I would simply I would argue that a paladin, if they find an orcish priest, they make sure they cut the head off him or her as quickly as possible, because but if they find some of these orcish little babies that come climbing out of the pit, is probably on their way to become a priest. So but on the other hand, if they come to orcs that are not brought up in this and would surrender and act anymore, then you should treat them as genuine people, so to speak. And
that was one of the things I wanted to show in the Spine Castle article, was all these shades of gray and evil.
Yep.
So, there's orcs and there's there's followers of Erethanol, which even the orcs are like, oh my god, these guys are a headache. So and then you have goblins who are constantly put down and treated like dirt, who actually would help good characters, because they're like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I also have in upcoming campaign, now I'm also going to spill some beans for my players, is that the Shieldlands, the Knights of Holy Shielding, they have some young orcs that they captured, so to speak, and stuff, that they actually taken in as the beginning of prisoner of wars to learn, and they became advisors and taught the other Shieldland Knights and the population more about orcs, and they got offspring, and that offspring is raised within the knightly order and become a special humanoid guard. Then they become behind the lines recon troops and stuff, and they are highly sought because they are brought up among the knights and within the order, and they are loyal because they realize what a wonderful upbringing they got, and they are seen as valuable members of the order, so to speak. So they are a few hundred maybe, or something like that have grown up. So in order to teach them all that, and they act as spies behind enemy lines because they blend in and they are orcs, so they know both, so to speak. So there are some good guns. Yeah.
The danger of the approach that 5th edition may take or 6th edition, if they do it after that, is the exception becomes the rule. Then every humanoid can be any alignment equally to any human, and then you're left in a morally ambiguous universe where your PC can't be heroic.
Well, I just heard a really awful rumor, and if you guys want to confirm it or not, they're going to also remove negative stat effects if you have low con or a low dex.
Oh my god.
Yep, that's what I heard. So yeah. So
that kind of just limits the range of the game, and that's just mechanically stupid.
Jason just said it happened last week. So yeah.
Uh-oh.
So it's
the more recent play, some
Neuterize. That's
strength of 3 is a +1 up to 18 with a +7 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's gonna be some ridiculous thing like that.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. But it makes, yeah. Well, yeah, I guess mathematically you can do it either way, but it works that way. So,
Yeah,
well,
whatever.
this is gonna kill Casey.
Oh my God! Yeah, well, Casey had to take on Sunday when I had my game was 7 of subscribers / followers, and Casey already had to play a character was already done. He was trying to min max out. I gave in on the armor. Why does this character have leather? She can afford studded leather. Why doesn't she run out and get studded leather? Why? I was like, okay, just go buy studded leather. You're done. So that's how I resolved that problem for 1 armor class point. So it's just
maybe she doesn't like the look. I mean,
yeah,
and it might be more comfortable.
Or rangers can hide in shadows outdoors and move silently outdoors, and instead of armor, there's a penalty. There you go.
Exactly, and
so,
it's also I can chainmail will be horrible to wear if it's cold or hot because it conducts heat and stuff. Leather it insulates you much better. So
I'm predicting a paragraph in a new book that says DMs must always give experience points, because to not give experience points might hurt your players' feelings.
Oh my gosh. Well,
that's something I think it's up to every DM and his group how they want to deal with stuff like that.
I have the ultimate opportunity to sound like a real ass coming up Sunday, and we're going to talk about that in a second on that panel I'm going to be on during Autumn Revel. Wait to hear this, Gary. I don't think you've heard this story yet, but I'm going to be involved in something special that I myself and John from Blue Box got invited to, which will be entertaining to say the least. So, Anna, what's going on now that Virtual GrowlCon is done?
Oh yeah, for me, I've been the emphasis this week is to dig into produce stuff for my upcoming campaign, and I got into a rabbit hole yesterday, and I've been working now for 2 days on something that I've actually been working on 10 years. The biggest caveat, I posted it on Flani's Geographical Society, so this is kind of map technical, but it's such a huge thing for me. Since I started 10 years ago to work with real virtual terrain, so to speak, to build virtual terrain properly, there is one thing that eludes me and everybody that doesn't really, is not the thing the programs can't really support, and that is the drainage and river systems to have over a large area, meaning your rivers and water flows across the landscape in these kind of weird rivers and meanders and cuts out valleys and stuff like that. If you have a mountain range, every valley somehow goes downhill to the ocean, so to speak. Almost every valley. There are a few exceptions, but those are far and few between. And that is something that I wanted to have real drainage and river systems on my Greyhawk maps. And the good thing is that the latest versions of World Machine and even Gaia starting to have primitive tools for doing this. And now I managed to put together, because the other problem you have when you trying to match an existing map is that you want the major rivers to go where you want them to go. You don't want the fractals to just come up with whatever they come up with. You want to have the major rivers where you need them to be, and then fill in the other little rivers. And that has been really, really, really difficult to do. I've done so and so with it over a decade. Now I think I've solved the final issues. There's one more test, and I've actually done the test while the show here is to see if that works over tiling. So you do one in area and then you another area, and they're supposed to match. That's what I'm testing, but there are ways around that too. So if I can solve that, then I've made one major going forward, so major step forward in order to produce maps more efficiently that are of even higher quality. And also there will be some new cool screenshots and stuff coming up, because the area map around the village of Aldet that my campaign will start, now I have the nearest, what is it, like 5 miles in each direction at 5 feet per pixel, and it looks gorgeous. It's starting to look absolutely awesome. You can get lost. You can send your characters can wander around in the landscape, and you have to figure out when you come to a road and there's a split in the road and there is no sign, you have to start thinking, should we go left or should we go right and stuff. So all of a sudden wilderness navigation and survival will be a vital skill in my upcoming campaign, because you really can get lost in that landscape. And I've come up with so many awesome little details to add to the surrounding areas just from the looks of the map, like abandoned villages and all sorts of interesting little things. So it's going to be fun. And that is just a test map, but I'm starting to feel like the quality eventually will be so good that I think it can be incorporated into the future generation of maps, but and at least very, very close to. So the new generation of maps is starting to be finalized how to do it. So that is amazing going forward. So that's been hard. It's taken me 5-6 years of development to reach this point, but so I'm kind of proud that I kind of blasted through some of the last remaining problems to solve, so to speak.
Well, that is awesome to hear that, you know, how that area, that little area that you've done.
Yeah.
What's the size?
It's 16,000 pixels, and that is like 5 miles across. And it's 60. Yeah, it's 5 feet.
No, the size on a hard drive.
Oh, it's about I think about 10 gigabytes in size. Yeah, something like that per yeah. So it's you could roughly say that it's about a couple of gigabytes per square mile.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but that is during development. Once you have the final data, it will be down to maybe 50 megabytes or something like that, maybe 100. Once it's finalized.
A square mile.
Yeah, well, square mile would be like 20 megabytes or something like that per square mile. So it will not be that much. Once the final data is in, so to speak, it will not be that much. But when you develop it, you have the large files and all that, so to speak.
I think the full map of Greyhawk is going to be over 100 gig then by math.
It will be, I'm expecting 5, 10, 15 terabytes at least. Because, because I want to have all the elevation data and some masks and stuff like that. So yeah, so we're talking a big terabyte hard drive. But hard drives getting cheaper and cheaper, and soon you can have that much save space on a web server too. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! You got to remember that the development of this is years away. I mean, a little at a time.
But in order to develop that, that's what I did 20 years ago. You have to set a standard that is good enough, and then you simply have to keep working on it. So setting the standard is so damn important, because once I've set it, I have to work with it, and it needs to work in game engines and GIS tools and all sorts of stuff that can come up. So it's been a 10-year struggle to get there, but now I feel like I'm getting there, so to speak. It's very, very close. Yeah.
Whew, man. Unbelievable. So Gary, thanks for hopping on late tonight. We really appreciate it. You really helped and enlightened us on a lot of topics here. What do you got going on?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of had a sore throat today. I think allergies and stuff. And
you're hanging in there, man.
I'm hanging in there, but yeah. So we just put up a new map on Cannon Fire of all the cities in the Flannis, and we're going to augment that. So you can click on the city, find its population and all its references in all the literature, thanks to the Zavoda Index.
Wonderful.
But what you are going to soon be able to do is get all the distances between the cities calculated for you. So we have a fan, Dave, who's working on a table for us that will allow you to choose between terrestrial and sea and river journeys, and so just get a quick and dirty estimate of what it will take to get to another city in the Flannis. So that's one thing. The other thing is we're going to start collecting all the known maps of various cities. So
that's awesome.
If you're a fan of done a map, we'll take it. If you know of a map from an official source, we'll take it. If there are 2 maps of the same city, we'll put both, so that this becomes a resource for anybody who's trying to pick a campaign location. If you really want to make it easy on yourself and get some, if you click on Relastra, you're going to see Bosslock's amazing Relastra maps. So maybe that'll inspire you to run your campaign there.
No, that's a great
wonderful.
idea.
Fantastic.
Like, I guess I got to work on Altamira more.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now. It's awesome. It works really well, and there's a lot of stuff in it already.
It's great.
Yeah, we're going to let you choose the saturation of the map. So Anna, you know how you've been doing various versions of the map to sort of like make them less colorful, more colorful.
Yeah.
So apparently in CSS, you can do this just with a single command. You can tell it to desaturate or sepia or add effects like that.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have some buttons there for people to do that, so that sometimes when you have the full geographic information, you can't see all the things that are sitting on top of it, too colorful. And so we'll let people do that. The other thing is you're going to be able to soon get all the weather from those locations.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
And you're going to be able to get the sunrise and sunsets for the time of the year. So you're just going to tell us what time of the year you're looking at this calendar or in this map, and you're going to get the calendar information for wherever you're clicking. So should be a nice DM's resource.
Beautiful.
Yep, it looks great.
And don't forget, it may not be every Friday, but Greyhawk is this Friday, 9 p.m. EDT, correct? Gary, on that?
That's right. So once a month, we try to do a live Grey chat, and I think it's been more than a month this time. So it's the perfect timing because people can tell their interesting side stories from what happened at Virtual Greyhawk Con this weekend, and what they thought worked and maybe what they thought could be improved, and we'll
Yes, Josh, the topic is, and I'm going to try and be on there. I may be a little late, but I'm going to try and get on to this Grey chat. And how to move forward from Virtual GreyhawkCon was the topic, correct, Gary? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, I mean, how to, first of all, celebrate how well it went, and then also to take those lessons to keep building the community.
Yes, yeah, some great points and topics there. I really, I've only heard positives, and I really thank everyone for that. It was for first time, I think it went very, very well. I think we all had fun, and that's what it was all about. We had there was one or two situations I will not go over behind the scenes that happened, that probably happen at all cons. And you can notice I've toned my voice down a little bit for my son there. But it was, they got to happen, if you have cancellations or you have issues. But other than that, the streamers went off almost to the T, dead on time. Everyone rated into everyone properly. Everyone had all the logos up. Everyone did the giveaways. I'm through giving away. I've gotten through all the virtual Troll Lord game giveaways. Plus, like I said, download your pack, please. And I am still going through giving away. I got through about a third of the actual physical prize packs that people have won. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow, a little bit tomorrow, but mostly on Friday while I'm in my home office all day. So it will all get out, trust me. But just wanted to say, great. It was about average for virtual. Thanks. Yeah, that was Josh being considering he was the tech head. You only. I'm naive, so not aware of any issues. I don't. It was good. There were no issues to report on a grand scale. Dorgrim, I don't know. Okay, because it's after all this expense stuff now. I'm spending a couple $100 on shipping, so I don't know. And remember, it was a virtual community con where there's no profit. So anything that's left over goes to St. Jude. I can't tell you how much. It's probably going to be a few $100, in that range. But just remember this. February 3rd, the third weekend or fourth weekend in February is our 24-hour Greyhawk mega stream fundraiser event for St. Jude. And we're already planning that. We've scheduled, we did over $2,500 last year. And I've already got 8 Twitch channels involved. I had 5 last year. I have 8. So with 8, it's probably going to 32 hours. Okay, it's probably going to start Friday at 4. have a 4 to 8, 8 to midnight, midnight to 4 a.m., 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. You got it all the way through the end. So I think it's going to go 32 hours now. Troller Games once in, and Sorrow's Tale once in, and Blue Box has automatically been added as the 6th because we had 5 last year. So yeah. The tech team did unbelievable work, and if there were any issues, they were taken up care of pretty quickly, definitely. So, all right, some other shout outs here real quick. Tomorrow, next week, next Wednesday, Economies of Greyhawk. I was a little hesitant on this because I don't.
It was my idea. So
yes, I was, and then Mike brought up a lot of topics in the chat that we can discuss, like how you get rid of money off of players, expenses players incur. That's right up my taxes. That's right up my alley. That stuff.
Yep.
But how different countries interact and stuff, and is a little nebulous to me.
What happens when you release a dragon horde on a poor area and you have tons of money to spend, and who's the richest, and there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff you can kind of do different, and the Greyhawks, various versions of the Greyhawk money is interesting too. You have Electrum coins and all sorts of interesting things that is not part of standard D&D. That is, according to the Gord books and stuff, it's a bit complicated, the monetary system and stuff. So there's a whole bunch of stuff to cover.
So we'll do that next week, and it'll be an interesting discussion. Tomorrow night, a new adventure. It's a one shot because I just could not, after all the stuff I did, I went simple. So it's called The Ambush. It's the Narwhal Headhunters. So those of you who played in the game Sunday, you may see those characters you played being played by their actual characters tomorrow night. And a little treat for you, Tim will be playing. He will be remoting in via Zoom. He'll be the only one, but Tim will be playing his Barbarian Cleric and his Gnome Specialty Priest of Ula tomorrow. So you'll get to see Tim playing tomorrow night, and that'll be cool. And the Narwhal Headhunters have gotten a tip about this bandit group that is causing trouble to the northwest of Narwhal, and they've always eluded them. They've always been one step ahead, and we're going to see what happens. So, can we discuss his mad RP skills? Are you talking about Josh's mad RP skills? We don't want to talk about from. I'm not sure, Phantom, if you're busting Josh's stones or not, but I want to play sometime if I get to play. And as a bridesmaid, never. So that is all right. Sunday is all right. How many days is it? 4. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday is Autumn Revel, Gary's pre-con for Gary Con. I'm sorry, Luke Gygax's. I have a seminar that's 1 hour. It's 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. It's on the main Gary Con channel. It's called Transitioning Between D&D Editions. You know I'm going to have my horns on for this. So, and Luke Gygax, I've been told, is the moderator. So they asked me to come in because I'm the old school guy. Well, I'm going to give it to him. So, very gentlemanly, but I'm going to give it to him, all the stuff I can't stand about 5th edition. So, and that's a lot, but that's me personally. So, yeah. We'll see. We'll see about that discussion, and then that you can put all you want. This Sunday night, coming up on a Gavin 113, World of Greyhawk, and its vibrant virtual community. So there are all the guests I have. Add William Henry Dvorak to that list as well, and we're going to talk about how far we've come in the last 2 years with. Yes, bring Len. Yeah, I can't even imagine having Len on that panel there. Jason, can you imagine? That would be bad. So because then he'd go off on how it would be awful. So it would be comical but funny. So
he will be the perfect example of the person who don't change editions.
Yeah, exactly. So this will be a really positive discussion on the direction of the community and everything that we're doing and how it's growing. I think it'll be a very neat discussion. I got Dave Leonard and Tommy John Kelly, 2 fantastic bloggers, coming on too, because they're part of it. And then they'll have 3 Twitch channels. Blue Box is 4. Blue Box CSL Wicked Studios and my own, and we'll all be in this discussion. We have a lot of signups on for this one on Autumn Revel. It's the top. Here we go. I can't help myself, Josh. It's the most signed up for event in the Autumn Revel TTE system. There you go. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to getting some new people, maybe some old schoolers or some new schoolers they're interested in what Luke's doing, but yeah, pulling them into our community. So looking forward to that. And then we start up with another regular week next week. So Gary, thank you.
No problem, guys.
Anna, thank you.
Fun as always.
Yeah, look at that. We only were a half hour late. So
wait, so what are next week's topics?
So we have the economies of Greyhawk for
economies of Greyhawk.
Yeah. It's and this is Anna's. This was Anna's. So
okay.
I
kind of screwed up. Yeah.
No, you didn't. You didn't screw up.
No, I think it could be interesting. It has a lot of kind of game practical related, meaning how do you get money out of players that are too wealthy and stuff. And
okay. Not as in the economies of the various kingdoms.
No, a little bit.
It could be all over the place. It was simply back to the way we have ambiguous kind of wide-ranging topics, so to speak. And yeah, so
taxes, D&D economy, magic item shops, popular ways to relieve players of money, etc. That's what Mike put in the chat.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's perfect. Yeah. That I can do. I know the Greyhawk City tax system up and down. So that I can do. It'll be an interesting discussion on that.
Economy can be used as a tool and a mechanism as a variable in your campaigns too. So yeah.
And sometimes you do go, it'll be an interesting one. I there's a lot of stuff I don't know. I don't use different types of coinage in Greyhawk. I don't know if anyone else does. I don't want to go to areas of minutia that'll bog the game down for my players, because my players are lucky, to remember what day of the week it is. So, seriously, that kind of stuff I don't know the difference between a Great Kingdom coin and a Greyhawk City coin, or if there even is one. So if we have that in the discussion, maybe that'll be interesting to We're not going to role play taxes for 2 hours, but we're going to talk about a lot of things like permit. There's permits, there's licensing, guild memberships. There's all sorts of stuff that costs. Some of those things we can really touch on. Yep. So, all right, guys and gals and everyone out there, thank you. We're going to raid into Trollord, who's got a very nice crowd already, 54 watching, doing a tabletop game now. So this is pretty cool. So thank you both for coming on. Thanks to Len for coming on. Sorry, Mike had internet issues tonight. Yeah. And am I going to hit the right button? Yeah, there's also all sorts of guilds too, which we touched on a little bit in one, but we can do that again too. So let me raid into Troller Games. And Gary, if you can hang on, I want to talk to you about something real quick, if you don't mind.
Sure.
We got a raid in from Gargamon. I didn't even see that. Huh. I didn't even see that. I apologize, Gargamon. I did not see that raid come in. We could have. That's weird. Once again, I'm zonking out a little bit here. All right, raid. Trollord Games, starting it up. When you get on here, please thank Trollord Games for all the greatness that they're giving us. It was what a wonderful package they put together for the end of con. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you. Let's finish this up. Alrighty. Anyone on? Who's on here? See you tomorrow night.